the French restaurant in South Wellfleet. And it's $35 a person. There'll be paintings and restaurant gift certificates. This is not an auction. It'll be just drawing from tickets that are sold. All the food is free, and all the wine you can drink is free as long as you don't get too much of it. And so you can call Mary at 508-737-3328 or Margaret at 508-237-1568. It's a wonderful event. They have given to Eastham alone, they've given almost $40,000 this year. And altogether, in the 18 years they've been doing this, they've given close to $300,000. And they're the only group that gives money. They don't just give information. They actually give money to the people who go to the senior centers there for therapy and rehab. So it's a great organization, and it would be nice if people supported it.
Jerry, can I ask you to repeat what the date was for that?
April 15th.
April 15th.
Yes,
What
and
time?
I think it's
5?
I think it's 4 to 7.
4 to 7, okay.
Yes. So be nice for everyone to go.
2 more.
I have 2 other announcements to make. John Mankiewicz and Chris Manella, who are the assistant shellfish constables. I think this may have come up with Nancy, but I wasn't sure. I asked her. And they were awarded Constables of the Year for the state of Massachusetts. And I think that that's a wonderful honor. The other thing is that hasn't got much play is Mike Flanagan and Will Sullivan. They saved those 2 people out in the harbor. And I asked Mike about it. He said one of them, as he was just got there, had said that a perfect calm had come over him and he was ready to go. And after being, fearful. And I think they deserve a lot of credit. And I don't think they've received the due that they should have had. And so they got there in time, and good job for them. And I think I appreciate it, and I'm sure most of us do. And the 2 men that were saved from the overturned boat, I'm sure that they appreciate it. So, good work.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else with a comment or announcement?
Can I make?
Yes.
I have a couple of announcements. One of the things that you're going to talk about later on during your deliberations on the town meeting warrant is the possible purchase of the Hilda Trust. And I say that differently every time, I think. At your next meeting, I'm going to ask if you would create a gift fund, because I have been approached by someone who wants to make a very large donation, somewhere in the range of $1 million towards that purchase. And so first step will be to ask you to create a gift fund so that we can accept a donation like that. And then any others who would like to create or make a donation to the town may also do that. The second announcement that I have for you is that this morning while I was drinking my coffee before work, I went on Facebook and I looked and I saw a couple of homes that were for rent in Wellfleet for the summer. So out of curiosity, I went and looked to see if they were charging the right tax because of the expanded room occupancy tax. And neither property was. One was charging 5.7% and the other one was charging something like 9.7%. So it's possible that a homeowner could decide, I'm going to waive part of the tax and I'll pay for it myself. That is possible. But just in case they were misinformed as to what the tax is going to be, we are having a coffee with the town administrator on April the 6th from 10 to noon at the library, where anybody can come in and ask questions about the expanded room occupancy tax. As most of you know, I own a bed and breakfast in Provincetown, so I've been filing that tax return for the room occupancy tax for about 14 years. So I'm hoping I can answer questions and clarify it for people, and if I don't have the answer, I'll help them find out what the answer is. So that's April 6th from 10 to 12 at the library.
All right, great, thank you. Anyone else? Any comments or not suggestions, no suggestions. Comments or announcements from the public? Yes, you do have to go to the microphone, John, yeah. And Bert is up there. Okay.
Hi, I have a quick question. Where does the town of Wellfleet stand with the Mass Department of Transportation regarding the resurfacing of Route 6?
I am going to say that they are putting the plans, and you're talking about the one that we just discussed with the bike lanes, or
No, resurfacing the highway.
of the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to check on that. I don't think.
I
do-
will
do
have,
you know?
we
Yeah.
just had a meeting today with the Cape Cod Commission, and part of that was discussing the 3 projects that are on the docket, one of which is the Cape Cod Rail Trail extension, one is Route 6 and Main Street, and one is resurfacing the Route 6 corridor. I will find out an exact date or give you an idea of when that's going to happen. Right now, they had it on a future project, but they are looking at it within probably the next couple of years, and I will find out more for that and have it for you at the next meeting.
Thanks much.
Hi, John Wolf. It's a question for Dan regarding the rental you just mentioned. I'm not clear. Is this a rental for less than 30 days that you looked into, or is it for the entire summer?
So if you rent your property for more than 14 days for the entire summer, and it's less than a 90-day rental, then you're subject to the room occupancy tax. And that starts for rentals after July the 1st.
Oh, okay, I thought it was for rentals less than 31 days.
I'll have to look
Change,
again
yeah,
because
yeah.
the law is a little bit different than what they originally proposed, but I'll have that information for you on April 6th if anybody wants to be there. There's also information on the front page of the town's website about it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on, we have the budget presentation by Nauset Regional Schools Superintendent Tom Conrad and Mr. Easley, John Easley, and, how are you?
Number of the-
It is the first one, number 2.
And also present is Giovanni, and I cannot remember your last name.
Venditti.
I will never say it right.
Yeah.
Venditti.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is just coming from me, but with respect for the length of this meeting and also the
Talking to the
importance of what you're about to present, would you please, as you were requested last time, make it as short as legally possible?
Coming from
We have all
Helen.
received the information. I've read it, and it was available to the public in the packet. So it's not that I'm not interested.
No, I understand completely.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So first of all, I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to the board for voting and approving the West budget and the region budget. It's a nice gesture on your part to get that out of the way for us, and I will keep my remarks very, very brief. I also want to say thank you to Dan Hort. Dan, I visit him on a regular basis, and he always has an open door policy and is very helpful on questions that we have relative to special education issues and others. And so, Dan, thank you very, very much for that. The last thank you is to thank you for getting the opportunity to get our school committee meetings at the elementary level now filmed. I think that's a great asset
Great,
for the
yeah.
citizens and the community to watch the work of the board, and I think that's a great step forward for us. In keeping my remarks as brief as I can, I just wanted to say a couple of things. We're watching demographics very closely in terms of student populations, and the superintendents across the entire Cape have been working all year long with a research expert on demographics. And I hope to have a educational seminar, a program that I'm going to offer to all the boards and the community members to understand what the research is telling us. And I think it's going to be very helpful for planning going forward. The other piece that I'll jump right into is, I'm sure you're well aware that we're working on the potential renovation of Nauset Regional High School. And we have now been at this almost 2 years from when we were accepted into the program. We have a board of 16 members representing all 4 towns. And we are in a phase, the phase that we're in at this point is we're working with our design team and our engineers to look at the possibilities of what we'll be considering going forward. As you know, the MSBA accepted us into that program, and it's a very stringent, and they have a number of restrictions relative to what we have to do in the process if we're going to want to get what we believe to be as much as somewhere between 41% to 44% of the cost of this project eventually. We're down to 6 options out of 16, and we continue to work almost every Wednesday evening on this project, and it's moving along very nicely. The other question we often get in the communities is, when can we expect this, and how much is it going to cost, and things like that. We're not quite sure relative to the option yet that we're going to be choosing, and that will have a huge piece in terms of what the final cost will be. We have been using a number around anywhere from $65 million, and it could go a little bit higher than that, but we don't know at this point. The other piece relative to this is that we have had forums. We had a forum here a number of weeks ago for citizens to come in and work with us on hearing their vision. And we hope to come back around with another round of forums in all 4 towns. And I hope to give Dan the green light to go ahead and put on the website dates that you can get tours of that facility and understand the issues that campus is facing. And we hope to get into all 4 towns with the opportunity to talk about the project, solicit advice, and help with that. So that's the short version. I think for us, we're trying very much to keep our budgets down and find ways that we can help ourselves keep our costs down by sharing amongst our buildings and making sure that we're doing as much of the work as we can to keep the costs as low as possible. Questions that you have?
Well, I have a comment. I was just going to tell you after our town meeting, Warren, there's no rush to get this built. You know, a few years might help. No, I mean, I didn't go to the presentation because I wasn't around, but I read about it, and it seems, you know, you've been doing this a long time, right?
That's right.
And, yeah, I feel that you all will do a good job, and you certainly care about the towns and keeping costs down, but yet making it really pleasant for the students.
I would say we're having a rich debate about trying to open the doors wider for the community to use this facility, not just high school students.
Probably a good idea, yeah.
And quite honestly, we're having discussions of, and I don't want to get too far off base, but whether it's truly a facility for a high school of just 4 grades versus a community learning center for everyone. And so.
Well, I know Eastham, Wellfleet, and most likely Orleans too. Like we don't have community centers. We have senior centers, we have libraries, but that's been one of the big discussions here in Wellfleet is what do you do when you're under 30 or 40 in the winter, you know, and how do you get around if you don't have a car and all that? So that's a good idea. And I'd also throw in, I'm really amazed at that there's no child care, especially for employees. I thought by now, when I was young, I thought every business would have a child care room in their office.
So
That
I can
fell
tell you
through,
that
yeah.
we moved forward 2 years ago to try and establish one in Eastham Elementary for the region
Okay.
and so forth. And you have to have such really a long lead period to begin to have parents thinking about taking advantage of that facility. And so that's in the works now. And the other one is that with the tech, with their early childhood development program, it's not going to be in the new facility. We're actually talking to that person to see if they would have interest in joining us potentially at the high school setting going forward.
That'd be great, yeah. And I think, Jerry, we're talking about doing like an EMT, more EMT training. Have any of the fire departments contacted you or rescue about starting like juniors and seniors with learning CPR as a really basic, so that they could see whether they like it and then go into I think the academies in Plymouth or someplace.
So we would want to be good partners. We want this to
Yeah.
be the community's building and used as much as possible. And we look at it as giving every one of our residents a reason of why they want to go there.
Yeah,
Not
it's a
just to
good
see
idea.
it, but to use it. So I think it's the way to go, and I think the board's excited to see what it can do. We've challenged the MSBA in terms of community use, and when we get into that discussion with them, quite honestly, the MSBA often looks at how big will the lobby be that goes to the gym and the auditorium. And we're telling them that's not what we want. That's important, but we want the whole campus
Yeah,
to be in a position relative to the community using it. And security is an issue for us, of course, to be
Yeah.
looking at in this project as well.
yeah, good. Well, I think it's the future,
Absolutely.
so. Any questions from the board? Concerns, Jerry? Oh, sorry, I looked at Jerry.
I just want to pick up on something the chairman said. If you read in the paper, the fire departments are having a very difficult time on the Cape of getting paramedics. Wellfleet has lost 2 this past year, and we have them on the warrant. So my thinking was, if somehow or other the high school could encourage an EMT program so that seniors who might want to go into paramedic training could do so and have a leg up rather than graduating and then get into EMT and then paramedic. It's a long period of time, and it's also very expensive. So I was just wondering if there's some way that you might offer or encourage or something, an EMT program for those kids that would want to go on to paramedic school.
So I work with the fire chiefs and the police chiefs a great deal, and I'm going to raise this issue. And for us, we know that it's an opportunity for some of our students to find good jobs here on the Cape and also serve the community. So if we can do something, I'll have this conversation with our new high school principal within a week.
Great.
I know our fire chief is very enthusiastic about something like that, and I'm sure there are other fire chiefs, I would think, that would also be enthusiastic about a program such as that. So whatever you can do would be helpful. It doesn't have to be a credit program, but maybe something,
Certification.
other than that.
Yeah,
So,
good.
Exactly, thank you.
well, thank you for looking into it. Maybe you can work something out.
Justina?
Madam Chair, through you, you already have some adult education going on at Nauset, right?
So we have a program out of the middle school, and it's successful.
Yeah.
We just see it expanding with the possibility of a new campus in
Sure.
a true sense. So we would probably blend that all into one.
Makes sense. And then I just wanted to say I have 2 kids, one graduated from Nauset and the other one still there. And I was always impressed by all the teacher conferences I went to and all of the different times coming in as a parent, how dedicated your teachers are. And my stepson got an excellent education and is at UMass Amherst, and my stepdaughter is an academic, and there's something for her there with the night program. So as a parent, I can't think of anything more important than providing access to education to all our students in town, no matter how the income level of their family. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything else, or Helen cut you short? You're not even going to do a little presentation?
No, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I will hold Helen to the same standards.
Jan,
Okay, I'm going to ask if
Just
anyone
one
has
other
any
thing.
question from there.
on these graphics, you think you could do a little bigger type for guys like me? I mean, it's very, very hard to read.
All right, we'll do our best. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So now we move on to disclosure reviews. We have two. Rebecca Noble is here. There you are. Do you want to come up and just read your disclosure? I don't know, we've never really had these before the selectmen before, have we?
Oh, yes.
They come up and read
Yes,
them?
and we
Okay.
did one for me.
Okay, that's good. All right, so we, yeah, come up to the microphone if you want. Rebecca is on the Bike and Walkway Committee. Is it Bike and Walkway?
Yes.
Sounds funny.
Madam Chair.
And she is going to say her disclosure. What do you want to say? Don't
I want to
interrupt.
explain generally, very quickly, what this is.
I think it's pretty obvious.
No. No. The appointing authority
Right.
for anybody on a board or committee can, if there's either an appearance of conflict or an actual conflict, right, which is financial impact, either positively or negatively, on you, your immediate family, your business associate, okay. You submit it to your appointing authority, and you state your case, and if you're doing it right, you actually call the Ethics Commission and talk to their attorney of the day, and then you come before your appointing authority and you say, I feel that I can substantially represent the town despite this. Will you let me do it? That's all we're doing. It's standard. We've done it before, and it's a very good thing, because some people may appear to have a conflict or have an actual conflict. Like, by the way, most of the people on the Shellfish Advisory Board, but they are still serving the town first and foremost when they're acting as a special and municipal employee. So Ms. Noble has done a perfect job with her disclosure, and I'm impressed with it.
Yes, I just would add that I'm excited to do the research and share information for you guys related to bike and walkways. And while my husband owns a bike shop and our residence is near a bike path, which would increase its value, that's not at all a factor in me being able to research and make recommendations to the select board.
Any questions, comments from the board? Go ahead, Justina.
Well, as clerk, I will say we did get a letter from a Wellfleet citizen and attorney that I'll just have to quote that she has an open and obvious conflict of interest as her business stands to benefit directly from the path of the extension of the bikeway and so forth. And I think, I mean, I appreciate your enthusiasm in wanting to serve, but I think because of my concerns about the conflict of interest and the activism of you and your husband, that it that there is somewhat of an issue to me.
Is that, are you saying that you think that I would not be capable of researching and following the charge of the Bikeways Committee?
No, I wouldn't say you're not capable of doing it. I think that there's an appearance that would bother other people.
We did get 2 letters from people questioning your impartiality for being on the board, and that as an abutter too, not that you live near the bike trail, but that you'd be abutting the proposed bike trail, right? Yeah. So I'm fine with disclosure, but if the rest of the board has, and so when she has disclosed that she is an abutter and her husband owns a bike shop, so just any time there's a question about that, you really do have to recuse yourself. And even in the open meeting, not violating the open meeting law, even talking with other Bikeway committee members, you have to recuse yourself.
Janet?
Yes.
So now we've heard from two of us. We haven't voted on this yet. And knowing both Ms. Noble and her husband, and attending numerous meetings about the issues surrounding where the bike trail should be, where the parking lot should be, and I have no conflict of interest. My impression of both of them was, particularly with Mr. Noble, who has had his fingers on the pulse of bicycle use since he was a child in Eastham, their main focus was on the safety of having a bike path anywhere, the safety and conservation concerns with where that parking lot at the end of the bike trail is and how it was going to be expanded. I went to the Conservation Commission. I really had concerns. And I have to say, I think that Ms. Noble could do a very good job on this committee that does a whole lot more than just this issue that we're looking at currently. And having spoken with her extensively and grilled her, I find that her point of view is very much on behalf of the town, and that she is in no way going to have her finances affected. There is an appearance of conflict, but I don't feel that there's any conflict that would substantially interfere with her doing a really good job on this committee. And she already has done a lot of work on it. And this disclosure is evidence of how well she wants to work as a committee member. I want her expertise on it. And also particularly on this matter before us, which is a real safety issue.
Any other comments from the board? Kathleen?
Madam Chair, through you to Ms. Noble, how many meetings has the Bike and Walkways Committee had?
We've had one so far since Lisa and Christy and Ned, since there's been enough people, and we have one tomorrow.
So you've had one meeting with a quorum
Yes.
since you were appointed in February.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And could I just also add that I know the two people were from Howard Court that have a personal grievance against me. But I know Ned's here and he's on the bike committee, and if you wanted to hear from him, he said he would be willing to speak on behalf of how the bike committee feels about me being on it, if you have any concern or question.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yeah. Mhm.
Rebecca, the 2 letters of correspondence we received were not from residents on Howard Court.
Because I saw a copy of one from Barb Taylor.
No, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Any comments from the audience? Yeah, do you want to get up, Ned, and go to the mic?
Yeah, I'm Ned Oliver, and I'm on the Bike and Walkways Committee. And, you know, the last year and a half, the committee has been virtually in limbo. I was the only person on it, and it's a really important time right now. As most of you know, a lot is going on. And Rebecca has been a huge help and been very conscientious about not having any kind of conflict, and whenever there's been any kind of question of a conflict, she has recused herself in the meetings and whenever we've been talking. And I really think it would be foolhardy on the town's part to not take advantage of her expertise, her energy. She's smart, and she's really trying to put a lot into this, and we really need a lot of work right now. So
Okay.
I
No, thank
can't
you.
recommend her enough.
Is there any more discussion, or should we have a motion?
I have one more point of information.
Okay.
Ms. Noble supports herself handsomely, herself, in a profession that has nothing to do with bicycles, okay? And I move, shall I make a motion?
You may make a motion.
I move that Ms. Noble that we accept the disclosure of Ms. Noble and accept that,
Here, right here.
yeah, well,
Read the
I
motion.
determined that the Board of Selectmen determines that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from Rebecca Noble.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? So, did you get that, Courtney? One opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving, and thank you
Thank you
for
for
this beautiful
serving.
disclosure.
Next, we have Nancy Chavetta, our shellfish constable, with a disclosure.
So I am here to say that I have been and always will act in the best interest of the town. There's never been anything that, since I took this position, has thwarted me from doing that in any way. I'm always acting on what I think is in the best interest of the town, with feedback from fishermen and the shellfishing public. So I did 2 forms. One, there's been this Mass Shellfish Initiative, and one of the steering committee groups is a former employer of mine, the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance. And I have been appointed to the assessments committee, and I have not attended yet until I got your dispensation, if you so choose. Although I feel like I have a good voice to add, and I certainly am always collecting feedback from fishermen about what they think is important. So I have not participated in any of those public meetings. I think we should take these one at a time. So Fishermen's Alliance was my former employer.
Okay.
When you hired me, I left that company.
Any questions from the board or comments?
Comment?
Okay.
This is an even more beautiful because more stringent 2 sets of disclosures. And I'm glad that you're taking the time to do this, and thank you. And I'm going to address the other ones so I don't have to get recognized again as well. I am very glad, having been to an assessment committee meeting in the audience, that you are going to be there on behalf of Wellfleet along with other people who are part of it. I think it's essential that our constable is there, and thank you for even considering taking the time with all you have to do.
Well, I'm learning too, so the appearance of conflict of interest is why I'm here.
Yeah, and I'll just say that in a small town, in a small area, being all of Cape Cod, it's almost impossible to disassociate yourself from any past, and it really is, again, conflict of interest is making a vote, making money from it, trying to influence other people's votes or other people's decisions. And I know that there's a while ago a comment about you still being on a social media group, and you can't get off a social media group, especially something like LinkedIn. I haven't been on that for 10 years, and whenever, 6 months after it started, and people still say you're up there, and it's so. What is important is about what happens in our meetings, in other meetings, and in business. Any other comments, questions from the audience? Kathleen, Justina.
Madam Chair, through you. So Nancy, this is a really thorough and sincere description of past professional and volunteer commitments, and I didn't see anything in here that you have a current financial interest whatsoever with your former employee, the Fishermen's Alliance.
No, I don't.
You're employed only by Wellfleet.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I know you've had some public accusation or somebody said something, so I just thought it was good to say that for the camera, that you work for Wellfleet, Town of Wellfleet, and the Town of Wellfleet alone.
Yes, and as I said, I left the Fishermen's Alliance and I did not look back. I love my job, and I am learning so much, and I'm enjoying working with fishermen here. This is my loyalty, and it has been.
Do you have time for 2 jobs?
No, I barely have
Okay.
time for this one.
Justine, did you have another question?
Just quickly, I think the shellfish community is lucky to have you, and I'm glad that we have had the chance to clear up any kind of potential misunderstanding and move forward from this issue.
Certainly.
Jerry?
I think we're lucky to have Nancy, and I think the town is very fortunate. And I'm sure she has no financial interests. If she says so, she doesn't. And I think she'll bring a lot to the table and for the shellfishermen here in Wellfleet and elsewhere. And unlike the lady before her on the bike committee, I think she'll bring a lot to the committee also on the bike committee. So I'm happy to have you, Nancy, and thank you.
On the Shellfish Committee, yes. Any other comments from the board, from the audience?
Judah Hearn, thank you, however this happened, because I asked so long ago for this, and I'm happy, Nancy, you're our shellfish constable, but I think we all need to be reminded that this should be a normal thing that we do, so I'm really glad about that. But I specifically asked for her relationship with the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance, not the MSI. And they own ARC, for instance. John Papalardo is part of the Blue Economy, which Nancy will also be telling us about. So there are several connections that I think also need to be disclosed. It's not really about the MSI, it's about the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance. And so specifically you said it's about whether you act or you fail to act. And I have a question. Back in August of last year, there was an announcement about the MIPA map that was put out for public comment. And I don't remember ever being told, and no one I know was, that that was out for public comment. And it's a very important part because it's about the permitting process. And yet Andrew Gottlieb, who's part of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, was first to write a letter in support of this Citizens Advisory Committee. So I'm sure you know about this, Nancy, because it's part of what the MSI has now taken over to do. So my question to you is, I would see that as something that you failed to act to do. So can you explain why?
Respectfully, I consider this perhaps an important thing to consider, but right now we are only, and I messed it up by addressing both disclosures at the same time. I apologize. Right now we're only addressing the first disclosure, okay?
I need to clarify here, okay? So my disclosure is for the Fishermen's Alliance, which is the nonprofit that I used to work for.
Yes.
Fishermen's Alliance is on the steering committee for Mass Shellfish Initiative. So,
But it's your entire relationship.
So
They're
what I'm saying
insulting
is
Let her
that so
speak,
much.
please. Please do not interrupt.
I was at constable training, and they did a section on ethics. I spoke with a person afterwards about my 2 potential appearances of conflict of interest. He said, call attorney of the day. I called the attorney of the day. The very next day, I submitted my paperwork. So that's how it came out. I learned about this at constable school.
So what about John
And,
Papalardo?
Excuse me.
Okay,
You have to
well, he's
speak.
the head
Excuse
of-
me, you have to ask questions throughout, else you cannot directly ask
Sorry.
her.
So I have not been participated in Massachusetts Shellfish Initiative and their meetings because the Fishermen's Alliance is on the steering committee, and I didn't want there to be an appearance of conflict of interest.
Wow.
But she's not a,
Excuse me.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Powers?
if I may, thank you. For the record, Joe Powers, Assistant Town Administrator, acting as Human Resources Director as part of my role. I just want to remind all parties that what is occurring this evening is a perfunctory administrative matter related to a disclosure of an appearance of conflict of interest for an employee in accordance with Massachusetts general laws. This is not an opportunity for anyone to talk about the reputation or conduct of the employee because said employee has certain rights under the law as to how that would be conducted. This exercise that you're going through is something that going forward you could, as a board, determine that a member, perhaps the chair, make a determination on these matters, and you could authorize them. However, you've chosen to be in full transparency, and I agree with that, but it is simply, does the board feel that the disclosure is appropriate and that you support the information that was disclosed? It is inappropriate to have the back and forth of anybody else here.
Thank you.
So can we make a motion?
Madam
you
Chair,
can.
please, please. One last thing.
It really better be good.
Okay, it
and
is,
to the
because it's
point.
directed to Mr. Powers, our record access
Well,
officer.
that's not in our
It
meeting.
is, because I made this request for the 23B with the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance on the 23rd of December. He had 10 days to respond, whether that was available or not, and he
Okay, this
violated
is-
Massachusetts law by not doing it. So I want that on the record, because I've been in contact with the Secretary of State
We're not
regarding
discussing that now.
Mr.
We're-
Powers. Yes, we
Good.
just did. Thank you.
Yeah, good, okay. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Madam Chair.
May I have a
I
motion?
move that the Board of Selectmen determines that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from Nancy Chivetta.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on.
Moving on, yep.
So I was a board member of Wellfleet Shellfish Promotion and Tasting as a volunteer. And when I took this position, I resigned from the board in case there could have been any potential view of a conflict of interest. I continued to volunteer during that weekend. I run the shuck-off, and I have run the shuck-off for years now. I do it on my own time, and I want to, SPAT has been wanting to support the town. The town has wanted SPAT to give money to the town, so I have been asking for, I would like to ask for funds to support our propagation where we're falling short. And other things like the equipment, the safety equipment for the barge is something that I would like to ask SPAT to fund.
Yeah.
Madam
No, and
Chair.
you've always been very clear with that distinction. Kathleen had her hand up first.
Madam Chair, through you to Ms. Cervetta, for the record, you used the word volunteer, so I'm going to assume that in the weekend that Oyster Fest takes place, you are not paid for your of services to the stage or the shuck-off. Am I correct?
You're correct. It's also 2 days that I am not typically scheduled to work
Thank you.
for the town.
Janet? I also have to say that all the department heads got a directive. Well, I said it, but we sent it to all the department heads. Apply for grants all the time, up the yazoo. Thank you for applying to SPAT for things that we need. And whatever, if I applied for a grant to them, I'm on the Shellfish Regulatory Board, that would be appropriate too. In other words, you're doing your job as requested. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. You blew it because you overstepped your bounds. Nope, zip, nope. May I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen determines that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from Nancy Chivetta.
Second.
All in favor? I do not have to recognize the audience, so, nope, zip it, go. Nope,
Thank you.
okay. So can I have, the next thing we're moving on to are seasonal license renewals? And
I say
unless
something?
somebody needs to,
So, since I'm up here, I sent you all an email after the agenda was set about
Oh,
the bay
yes.
scallop season, and it is closing on Sunday. But a group of fishermen approached me and said, there's still a lot of resource out there that is big. Bay scallops have a very short life, and so they will die. They've already had a chance to spawn because they're over a year old. And I would like to honor their request and ask you, the procedure is that the board write a letter to petition the DMF, the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, to extend bay scallop season. And I'm asking in Wellfleet waters for 2 weeks. And I did put a draft letter on the table, as well as a table from the state that I got, which is the last 4 years of landings, and the letter from the fishermen, some of whom are here tonight and would love to speak with you about it.
Okay.
If you can take it up.
Kathleen?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I've read the draft letter that Nancy left us, and I would suggest that at the end of our meeting this evening, that we get this signed, and Mr. Hort can get this letter off tomorrow morning. It needs to get in the mail like this week. Great job on the letter. We thank you for that, and it's perfect.
Good. Any comments from the board on this?
Yes, and this is all completely okay under the open meeting law because the chair, none of us had any idea about this in time to have it posted, and neither did you. And it came in as a directive from Michael Hickey. So it really has to happen. It has to come from us, and thank you for the extra work on behalf of the people who are here. And I feel that the fact that they signed the letter, I'm ready to move on this and move on.
Okay.
I
let's do it
understand the
then.
need.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. So,
Kathleen, can you?
We don't need to do anything.
No, we
no, I was
have
gonna
to, we
say-
have to move to send the letter.
So there's just one piece of information that I'll need to fill in there. There's the only piece of information I hadn't yet gotten, which was some catch data, which I can work with the fishermen to get.
all right.
And we can do that first thing.
Okay.
We can do it, I can work on it here in the hall, actually, because they're here. And
What
then
does Mr.
I can
Hort
print it
say?
out for the end of the meeting.
Okay, all right. So, yeah,
Okay.
see how it works. If not, we can do it tomorrow morning or something.
No, we can't
too.
meet, we can't vote.
Well, we
to
can
send
vote.
it tomorrow. Okay.
We're going to
yeah,
vote.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move, Madam Chair, that we send a letter to Dr. David Pierce, Director of Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, with regard to extending the scallop season.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if
yes,
I may.
Mr. Powers.
Now, as your town clerk, I would just advise that you're absolutely right that this was a matter that was not reasonably anticipated, but that what you may want to do at your next meeting is put it as an agenda item,
Yeah.
give it full notice so that there can be additional discussion on what transpired.
Should we put a copy of it on the web page,
Not a bad idea.
website? Okay.
Madam Chair?
One other thing that I will say is that, I took this very seriously, that it was late, so I made sure that I communicated via email and text message to the shellfishing community. And when I thought it would happen later in the agenda, and when it happened earlier, I made sure to email everybody again and text message again, so that anybody who wanted to be here could be here, and I do see people came.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair. That is fully in the spirit of the open meeting law. Thank you.
I had open meeting training yesterday.
So did I.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to licenses, we need to approve renewals of seasonal licenses. And if somebody has a conflict of interest with one of these businesses, this is for, just quickly looking, they're all for restaurants and food service. We could, and if somebody has, boy, something's really making me cough. And if somebody has a conflict with one of these getting their license renewed, say so now. Otherwise, we can move this all as one, reading off each name. So does anyone have a conflict of interest? Anybody have a comment on any of these businesses that would prevent them from getting it? Okay. Who wants to go?
I move to approve the renewal of seasonal licenses for the Wellfleet Beachcomber, Winslow Tavern, Lighthouse Restaurant, Bocce Italian Grill, Wellfleet Motel and Lodge, VR's, Maurice's Campground, Wellfleet Marketplace, Jaquesset Yacht and Country Club, Flying Fish Cafe, Wellfleet Flea Market, Catch of the Day, Mac's Shack, The Pearl Restaurant, Harbor Stage Company, Bob's Sub and Cone, Ciraldi, Jaquesset Yacht and Country Club Boathouse, liquor and more.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And then we will move on to approval of common victualler licenses, and the same thing. This is,
Isn't it that?
oh, I don't know, this, no, you turned it over.
It's on the
These are-
back.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate
Well,
it.
we'll talk
We're
to
saving
Courtney
paper.
later about these papers.
Okay. No, I don't have that.
I agree. Okay, so we're moving to approve the renewal of common victualler licenses for Bob's Sub and Cone, Lighthouse Restaurant, Marconi Beach Restaurant. Anyone have a conflict of interest or comment on the licensee? Hearing none, may I have just
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor? So, everybody who's here for those, got it. Oh, and then we have, okay, so now we have the.
May
appro-
I interrupt just one? Who
I
made
got
the
it.
motion and who made the second on
I-
that one?
I
I-
did.
Did you make the motion?
I made
She
the
made the
motion.
motion.
Okay,
She
and then
made-
Kathleen
yeah,
seconded.
Okay. So now the next is approval of weekly entertainment license for the Lighthouse Restaurant. Any comments or conflict of interest from the board? Any from the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the renewal of a weekly entertainment license for the Lighthouse Restaurant.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Now, okay, good, got rid of this one, we go over here. And now, automatic amusement license. And we only have one amusement place in town. So this is for the renewal of an automatic amusement license for Bob's Sub and Cone. Any comments from the board? Conflict of interest from the public? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the renewal of an automatic amusement license for Bob's Sub and Cone.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Okay, moving right along. So now we're on to appointments and reappointments. First up is Kenny to the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Planning Committee. Did I see Eben? There he is, yep.
Hi, Evan
Hi.
Kenny.
Do you want to say why you want to be on this committee?
Well, it's mainly to stay involved. I'm a part of the Wellfleet Shell Fishermen's Association now, and just some things have been brought to my attention about possible nitrogen mitigation through planting of oysters. So I thought I could maybe contribute and learn at the same time.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board? Kathleen?
Eben, I've probably known you since you were a wee bit, but I'm really pleased that you're going to share your knowledge, your insight, and your energy by signing up for this committee. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Jan?
Yep.
So, thank you, too. A word. This committee's been working together for a long time, and I will personally, tonight, send you 4 or 5 of the documents that they all have great familiarity with, so you won't just be jumping in. And particularly one of them, which will ground you in what their work has been for the last X number of years. And I've got them, it's handy, so you'll be getting them, and I'll send them, in PDF so they won't, destroy your computer. The other thing is, and I'm going to start saying this regularly to people who have never served on a board committee, you can't act on it until you go to town hall and swear. You have to go to the town clerk's office. You can't just show up. So I'm going to say that to everybody that's new. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Did we vote? Justine has something, okay.
Oh, Madam Chair, through you. Yeah, thanks for serving.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear that
important,
you're
yeah.
gotten involved in the Shell Fishermen's Association and now this, and tell all your friends to get involved.
They're getting involved, right? It's happening. Okay, can I have a motion?
I move to appoint Eben Kenny to the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Planning Committee for a 2-year term.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Thank you. I'm assuming there's no comments from the audience? I didn't see any hands up. Okay, great, thank you.
I love moving right along.
Look for
don't
those
you?
emails.
I love moving right along, don't you? Are we going too fast?
Well, I am forgetting.
No, you're
Usually
good.
you can tell who's going to talk,
Good,
you know,
Janet.
who's antsy
you're
to say
doing good.
something, so I think I'm good. So next up is Kurt Felix for the Dredging Task Force. Any questions or comments from the board? I will say that Kurt has been on the dredging committee for 2 to 3 years, as far as I know. And he knows a lot about our harbor. So I would vouch for him. Any questions or comments from the board?
Comment. It's a positive thing when people that are on different groups are on groups that have a bit of overlap in terms of jurisdiction. So this is really good, especially because you've been serving on it. But I just want to be clear. Are you getting reappointed, or are you getting appointed to this new committee? Yes, the new committee.
I was on the old,
The task
the old
force,
task force.
Yes.
but
as
this
it
is the new
says, it's
committee.
the task force.
Okay, I sort
Yeah.
of knew that, thank you. The other thing is, will you list for people the different things you're on now?
Yeah, I currently serve on the Comprehensive Wastewater Planning Committee. I'm the town's representative to the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative. I also serve as on a board of water commissioners. I'm on the forum, and I think that's it.
Wastewater Committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
mentioned it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board, from the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion
Go ahead,
to
Justine.
appoint?
I move to appoint Kurt Felix to the Dredging Task Force for a term to expire on June 30th, 2021.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, John, did you get a call saying that we're filled up? Okay, are you just looking? So, because, okay, so, the Dredging Task Force Committee in December, January, decided that we had to move from being a dredging committee where there were a lot of people, townspeople, business people, harbor, harbor master, shellfish constable, were all on this very large committee that really got dredging packets, brochures to hand out to our Army Corps of Engineering, to our politicians, to really get across what we needed and to start getting the permits put in, getting the, anyhow, they did all the background work for the last really 3 to 5 years. I'm not sure how long I've only been on for like 2 years or so. Yeah. So now we realized in December, January that we needed to take things into our own hands. And then, so that's when the Dredging Task Force came about. And it was literally people who were going to go out there and start digging. That's an exaggeration, but it shows you how desperate we were getting. And it was Dennis Murphy and some other people saying, we have to get our own bulldozer. Don't quote me on any of the technical stuff, but that we really have to start working on this, getting funding for individually doing it. And then we now have the award of money, whether we've gotten it, but it simplifies things. So along with 5 people on the committee, we have the harbor master, the assistant harbor master, DPW, we have our town administrator, who else do we have, and myself. So we have, 10 people in the room talking about it. So, and we've never not had a quorum. So that's it. But keep your eyes open, and we'll see what happens.
Janet?
Yes.
We have 5 appointees now as of.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you again because we are now going to that's going to be a new charge. Next week, we're going to change the charge.
Okay, but we haven't done that yet. And in the meantime, I hear you, and I can wait for that. But there
Okay.
are positions for 2 alternates. So thank you for applying, and stay tuned until next week.
So what I'm saying is that we are going to change the charge so that
Well, we don't know if we're going to change it yet.
Well, we have a pretty good idea.
I really hope not.
Okay, okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
Stay tuned, whatever.
My email is always open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I didn't mean to be disrespectful, but we don't know what our discussion will amount to next week.
True.
That's all I meant.
True.
Okay?
I know. So,
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
we don't need a motion or
Wrapped in an
anything.
enigma.
That's an enigma.
Using that one today.
It's going to be my new favorite term. Okay, so, Historical Commission, Merrill Mead Fox up for the Historical Commission.
Do I need to put that down?
Just
Yeah.
talk into it.
Hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to say why you want to be on, you have very good credentials for being on the Historical Commission, but why don't you tell everybody?
I'm not sure if that's true, but I'm interested in being on the Historical Commission because I love history, and I'm interested in architecture, and I love the historical character of a lot of the buildings in Wellfleet. My family has long history that goes way back, and I care about this issue.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Kathleen?
Merrill, I think this is a good place for you to start, but we've got big plans for you, so
Uh-oh.
welcome to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anyone else
Question?
from the board?
Have you been to
course.
any of the meetings? Have you read their charge? Have you read their
I
minutes?
have been to a meeting. I've read their charge. I'm about to go to a training with Lydia this week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Good. Any questions, comments from the public? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to appoint Merrill Mead Fox to the Historical Commission for a 2-year term.
Second?
All in favor? Say aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Chief Facette isn't here.
appointment for the special police officers.
As Chief Facette said to you, I believe at the last meeting, he was going to be bringing this forward, but he was not going to be able to be in town for this appointment.
So he usually brings the police officers, and I don't think they're here. You want to do this anyhow without them being here?
Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
would, and
Yeah.
he can bring him in at some point to introduce him to you if you would prefer.
Yeah,
Madam
sure.
Chair?
Helen?
For the audience, we got their bios, we got their resumes, and they're very detailed, so it's not like, it would be nice to meet them and see them, but we got a lot of information about each one of them.
Well, and one or two of them have already been working for us,
Yeah.
so, and they come highly recommended by our chief of police. So may I have a motion? Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, can I have a motion?
I move to appoint Michael Allen, Rashawn Groche, and Kyle Robbins as special police officers for the appointment period of May 19th, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Helen, I think that's May 13th.
No, it says May
It says
19th right here.
Yeah.
Mine says the 13th.
And is this,
Oh, well, you're looking, the
yeah.
motion does not agree with the letter.
Gotcha.
yeah, and is,
Okay.
point
It's
of,
It's the 19th. Go
is
ahead.
it Groche?
Should be
or-
No, you're right, Kathleen.
Okay, okay, so I'll read it again, but it says 19
think-
on my piece of
okay.
paper, and I can't. Yeah, I move to appoint Michael Allen, Rashawn Groche, and Kyle Robbins as special police officers for the appointment period, May 13th, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so anyone here from Summer Surf? We're going to talk about surf instruction discussion. And Suzanne, did I see?
No, Zach's
No,
not here.
he didn't come. Who's somebody, I thought, okay.
I'm here tonight because it's that time of year, and the customary surf instructor businesses are going to start applying for permission to use town property. And because of the heightened awareness and the safety concerns on the ocean side, I just wanted to affirm with this board that you would either agree to continue as we have in the past, or whether you have any kind of reservations about permitting this activity. The Nauset Beach will not be permitting it. The Cape Cod National Seashore has decided that they will be permitting it. So we're the third leg of the stool.
So I've spoken with a couple of the people that want to continue teaching. I trust the three people that I spoke with, as they're called watermen, waterwomen. They know the ocean well, and I think they know the risk well. And we did get one letter from
Zach Powell.
Zach
Yeah.
Powell, and I trust they'll use their judgment. That if they feel comfortable, I would let them teach. I don't want to ban it. And I would also say I suggested that possibly, as far as stand-up paddleboarding goes, maybe there could be more in the harbor, close to shore.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree that I would like to see them continue because they're a valuable offering to the people who come here. My only question that is left is the amount of liability insurance that's required. $1 million naming the town as also insured has been required since Linda Smulligan was in the administration office, which is probably 15 years ago. So we might like to revisit with our liability insurance carrier whether we need to increase the amount of liability insurance required by the town for such an activity.
Mr. Hort, do you have a comment on that?
I agree with Suzanne. I think that's probably a good idea for us to increase the liability requirement.
Okay, Helen?
So I thought long and hard about this, and I agree with increasing the liability insurance because there are sharks everywhere in the town, never mind this.
On the land, too.
Even land sharks, I was going to say.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, laugh out loud, yeah. But I would prefer to have people who are going to be out there on their whatever boards anyway, having a little bit of education and probably a real, blast about the sharks, rather than just having them go out. I think it might even be a good step in the direction of protecting our liability.
Are you referring to the surfers or the teachers or the people who they're teaching,
The
or
people
who are
who-
you referring to?
Madam Chair, through the people they're teaching, who may
I'm sure
not
they're
know,
gonna- well,
who may not know enough, you see, and if, they may see the sign with the sharks, but if they're told as much as can be told in a class like that, and at least they have a little bit of training, I'd rather have them out in the water than people that just buy a board and try to learn, okay?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think if somebody comes before us for their license, we can certainly include that in their license.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? What would Suzanne like to say?
Unless Selectwoman Bacon has something to say before.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of things. I would like to see them continue. Do you expect that, I think maybe we saw half a dozen of them last season. Do you expect them all to be?
I mean, businesses
Yeah.
requesting? I would say the same players are probably going to come back.
Okay, and
At a recent shark working group, as beach managers, we were discussing safety, obviously. And there are plans afoot to create a video about shark behavior and being alert while you're in the
Good
water and providing it as a link. So we maybe could require or ask, or however you'd like to condition their license, that this video clip be made available to the people that we license and that they show it to their lesson people. If you get an overstand permit for the seashore, you have to watch the video. And I don't think that's a bad way to proceed with this. Watch this 10-minute video before you take your board and go in the water.
Yeah.
my next question was the increase in liability insurance. Is that going to affect, the cost for these kids doing the lessons?
I'm not sure how right now, these businesses carry their own liability insurance, and I'm informed by them that getting the town listed as also insured is a minor expense right now.
Okay.
So I think doubling it probably would be
equally reasonable, or whatever percentage our carrier recommends. I hate to go in million-dollar jumps, but
The other thing I'm going to add is that I would like to see this continue for this season. We're going to have to take this 1 year at a time.
I agree, and this was a big decision, and I didn't want it to be made anywhere but under this board's direction. So I appreciate you taking the time to discuss it.
Justina?
I don't know if Kurt went first, but. Yeah, I want to see the surf lessons happen. I think that the letter that we got from Sacred Surf made some really good points, that his instructors will be first responders, and he says that he believes that surf schools can provide a more structured and safe environment in the water than what he says, people renting or borrowing boats and aimlessly floating around. However, I don't know how we can, so I'm in support. It seems common sense what he said, but I'm concerned that before we make a decision, we don't have the facts on the liability. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know if, God forbid, something would happen to a surfer, what kind of exposure the town would have.
Well, they still have to come before us for their license, so we have time to look into it and then present it to them.
Okay.
Along with the idea that they can instruct their students and have maybe a checklist of safety items.
And if there is going to be a checklist of safety items, I would recommend that they all carry Stop the Bleed kits, which include the hemostatic bandages and the tourniquets.
Yeah, no, why do I keep forgetting his name? Anyhow, he did a good job enumerating all of them.
Zach Powell.
Zach, yeah. Jerry?
I'd like to ask the town administrator, did we not receive a letter from town council that we should proceed as we have been in the past and not do a hell of a lot because of the liability that might occur on us?
What town council spoke of was that if we put something in the water that ensures, or we're saying that it's going to increase the safety, that we risk becoming liable for that. So they recommended basically that, what they said was, what they said is, you won't want to hear this, but it's best if you do nothing, because anything you do increases your liability.
Yeah, the other reason for that is it gives a false sense of safety, which we cannot provide. It's, in a sense, representing ourselves as being able to protect people from something that we really can't protect them from.
Good. Any other oh, I'm sorry, Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I was going to suggest was that we look at the participant liability waiver and how that's constructed as part of the liability exercise, because we're not unlike the ski industry or any other place with substantial natural liabilities. And so if the participants are waiving that liability, certainly that's going to help give us some more protection.
Good, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Okay, any from the audience? We don't need a motion because this is a discussion.
Business as
Thank you.
usual.
Business as usual.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so you guys are from Nature's Alternative?
No.
Cape Cod Cannabis?
CCC.
You are, okay. Is that a new name?
No?
As we discussed last time, we can't secure the
Can't hear you,
Okay,
please.
so come on up. You're up then. You're up next, yeah.
Hi, Mr. Pike.
Hi, thank you for inviting us back.
You're welcome.
As we discussed before, we can't secure Cape Cod cannabis until we sell product. It's kind of
Okay.
chicken and egg thing. You can't secure it federally. As a federal trademark, you can just apply, but because of the conflict between federal regulation and state regulation, that's not available. So the only copyright or trademark that's available to us is the Massachusetts version, and it's only issued as a matter of proof of use. So,
Okay.
yeah, Cape Cod cannabis is where we want to go, but I can't promise you we're going to get there.
Okay. Good. So any, just for the audience, this is their, I feel like you've been here more than once before.
He gave us a presentation.
You know, I hear that a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Now he's getting a host
Yeah,
agreement.
no, I feel like, yeah, okay. Thank you, Kathleen. I do know that. Thank you. So this is, they have presented this is for marijuana retail, and it will be at 1446 State Highway, or that's where they're applying for it, which is in the, what is it called? Cranberry Cove parking lot? What is that?
South
Cove?
Wellfleet
Cove,
General Store?
whatever, Dunkin' Donuts. I don't want to refer to it as Dunkin' Donuts, but it is in the Dunkin' Donuts, the old.
Post office.
Yeah. So, and they're here for the host community agreement. They've already come with their presentation. And this is their next step before getting a license from the state, if all goes well. So are there any questions or comments from the board? Helen?
So, I didn't read every word of every section of what we have here. So my first question is, and perhaps other board members can help me with this, or the TA, who wasn't there. Is this exactly the same document that we saw before?
Yes, I didn't send you any new documents.
Okay, so it is.
Yes.
The second thing is, what was your thought? Remember, I said, why are you not also going to be a medical marijuana dispensary? What are your thoughts about that at present?
We discussed that in the interim, and we are perfectly comfortable with submitting an application with the full intention of being approved. However, I can't guarantee that that will happen.
Right.
What we would like to do is to mitigate the time and potential failure to get that additional license. We'd like to move forward with the retail license. We intend to carry a full line of products that are equatable to the medicinal versions, and we intend to have a 15% senior citizen discounts for those who want to get their prescriptions filled with us instead of a medicinal facility, so that they will have the same potential savings.
Yes, but not everybody with a medical marijuana card is a senior citizen. And my point before, and you know, the cannabis whatever commission has had such a moving target of changing laws and, you know, regulations. I am not now sure, and through you, Madam Chair, to Joe Powers, who may know this or may not, is it still true that if you have a medical marijuana card, you get a discount?
I truly have no idea.
Well, I'm ashamed that I don't either. Do
And we
you?
would be happy to honor that. And by the way, the senior
you know?
discount is designed to apply to seniors and veterans, just in case that's of interest to you. We
Okay.
intend to apply it to both. But we'd be happy to honor that.
Yeah,
There may
because,
be two different discounts or something.
yeah, well, because it is a discount for people that are younger and not veterans.
I do know that
Never heard of that.
I'm not prepared at this moment to say what we can and cannot do, just because I know there's regulations I haven't read governing medicinal, because we weren't going down that path. But we, from a business perspective, are happy to honor that.
Thank you.
I just want to respond as well. We did look at it. My name's John Kenny, an attorney from Centerville. I looked at it. In your local bylaw, you actually have a medical marijuana overlay district. If we apply for that, we automatically have to go to the zoning board for a special permit, which would cause time delay. And also under your ordinance, that entity has to be a nonprofit, so we'd have to create a new entity. This is a for-profit entity for the retail. It's right in your bylaw. I've read it several times. Section 9.3.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm ashamed that I didn't look at it again, but I thought we got rid of that. Never mind.
I'm going to ask Nate what he wants to say.
I am a stroke victim. Can I get the marijuana, yeah. But I don't, Yeah, and the senior citizens, I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He doesn't know this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so we're covering new territory here, so I'm just speaking to our perspective as a business. If you have a medical prescription and it's deemed appropriate that we are able to offer the discount as a retail store and not a medical store, then of course you'd be honored.
Okay.
Perfect. Good.
I'm just trying to be a little careful. We want to help the community. We want to be good citizens. I just can't promise things I haven't looked deeply into yet.
Kathleen?
So, as I understand this, you're no longer going to be leasing the South Wellfleet General Store.
You're confusing us with Nature's Alternative. We are in fact leasing the South Wellfleet General Store.
Okay. You said something about Cranberry Cove.
Uh-oh. Okay. That's,
Okay.
So item C on your agenda, which is the next one, is a request. They originally asked for the South Wellfleet General Store, and they are requesting a different location. That's item C.
Okay.
so, but you're not Nature's Alternative.
I am not.
You are CCC.
That's why I'm confused.
Well-
There's a little,
So-
Natural Ventures is our parent company, so there's a little confusion there. We apologize
Yeah.
for that, but we are CCC.
So in our packet, it does say that they're at 144, oh, that is 1446.
Yes.
All right. I drove by all of them, yes, I'm sorry. So this is not at the Dunkin' Donuts thing, this is at,
No, I was going to ask you about that because I
Yeah,
missed the
it's a
Dunkin'
good
Donuts.
So
Could be
may
a
I
good
continue,
start.
Madam Chair?
Yes, so just for the clarification to the audience, my mistake, it is at the South Wellfleet General Store, which, yeah.
So this evening, you gave us a very great presentation the last time you were here. This evening, you're just looking for that letter of a host agreement so that we can kick you forward.
Indeed.
Very good. You still slated for
And to answer any other
Memorial
questions,
Day?
because last time I delivered you my packet as I showed up, because it was all a big surprise for everybody.
Huge.
So I'm hoping you've had time to review it and come up with
Yes.
questions.
Obviously not well enough for
One
me.
more thing.
And I did read it all. Go ahead, Helen.
One more. So I did read some of it, and on page 6, everybody, it's E, limitations on other uses, and I want to point out something which is a kind of disturbing, I think, typo. What it has here is it says that you, the company, that is your employees or whoever's working there, isn't going to smoke or use the product on premises. And if you change the word in the first sentence from engage to allow, it will be very clear that you will not allow on-site consumption by people who are in the place, not just, read it.
I'm happy to rewrite that. That's actually a matter of law, not even a
Right,
matter of my
state
rule.
law. It's state law. You cannot consume.
In public
In
or
public.
in my premises. No one,
Yeah.
employees or customers.
Yeah.
But
no
it
gummy
doesn't say
bears, no
that.
nothing, no, yeah.
Well,
that's
it doesn't have to because it's state law.
Well, it would be nice if you put in language that said that your employees couldn't, or whatever you
yeah.
want, but,
And they certainly won't.
Section E,
And
Section E.
the most unclear part of that I recognize now and I apologize for is, it's not just employees, no one.
No
On the
one, no
premises,
one, right.
inside, outside, it's
Yes.
state law.
But please make the language meet that. Just
Okay.
take a look, you'll see what I mean.
Certainly.
Mr. Hort.
So the host community agreement that you have in front of you now is our standard basic host agreement. So if that language is uncomfortable and you would rather it say the company agrees that it will not allow on-site social consumption, if that makes you feel better, we can change that and it will be reflected in every item. It says basically the same thing, but if it makes you more comfortable, we're happy to do that.
However, it is the state law. It's just like you can't pop open a can of beer in a liquor store or anything like that.
I understand
So-
that completely, but the language says that only the company can't do it, okay?
Okay,
That's all.
all right. Mr. Hort, Mr. Hauk.
Yes.
You're frazzling me,
I understand,
Helen.
you're paying rent now at the general store,
Yes,
as I understand it.
yes.
You're, from the egress of your store, you own out, you've been down there, I understand, there used to be tables out there and kind of a fence.
That was
Going
before
out.
I ever
In the
saw it.
front, there's some
You-
railroad ties, or there used to be.
I just
Maybe
want,
they're taken.
I want you to understand that you own further out than the liquor store owns and the other place. You own further out into the parking lot.
All right.
So to make sure that you don't put tables back out there, which have been out there in the past, where people might tend to want to sit and have a little blow or smoke or whatever it is. So just remember that you own more out into the parking lot. So just to be on the safe side, I just want you to know that.
Okay.
You know, you don't just own from the door, you own quite a bit out further.
It is not only, as we've covered, no one will be smoking anywhere on the premises. And it is
consuming.
not only not our intention to put tables or anything back out front, it is our intention to structure the interior with a significant waiting lobby and not allow people to accumulate outside. We will have security tell them, we're full, come back in an hour. We don't intend to allow queuing outside. We intend to have a substantial waiting area secure from the actual purchase area inside the building.
Ms. Carlson?
Madam Chair, through you, can you remind me, is this your only one that you're opening, or are you opening locations in Mashpee?
We are working to open 3 locations.
3 locations. And the last time that you were here, I asked you how you plan to be a good member of the Wellfleet business community.
Well, first of all, we haven't touched base with them yet just because it seems premature prior to having the HCA agreement. We would like to work with the local co-op to provide their product in our stores.
Nice.
It is unlikely based on, I have read their documentation, it is unlikely based on the size of the grow facility they're planning to make that they would be able to supply us with all of the varieties that the public's going to want, but we would be thrilled and hope to get an agreement with them where we carry whatever they're producing, as long as they meet standards of safety. We're going to have rules about pesticides and that sort of thing, but as long as they follow those same standards of safety, we'd be happy to do business with them. We intend to hire locally, with the exception of we have to have expertise that if it does not, at the management level, if it does not exist here, we'll have to get it elsewhere, but otherwise we intend to hire locally.
And
Go
then,
ahead, Justina.
last follow-up question. We're seeing a lot of host agreements, and I'm sure you know about that, and so is every town in the Cape and municipalities all around the state. What makes you think that you're going to survive in what's going to be a crowded field?
I have both a significant record of beginning businesses and seeing them through to profitability, as well as, we discussed last time, a bit of a personal interest in this business because of the work, the benefit that was gained by my son by the product. I read probably the most significant article that I've read was by a doctor, I believe it was Johns Hopkins, I'm sorry, I can get the article for you though, but a prominent research physician who said that were it not for marijuana's history with the DEA and reefer madness and the whole history of the connotation of marijuana, had it simply been discovered last year in a jungle in South America somewhere, we'd be calling it a miracle drug.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, so I just want to add to what Justina said. Oh, did someone say yes? Oh, okay, John, sorry.
I just wanted to, through you, Madam Chair, to reiterate what I think is the importance of allowing and encouraging the local sourcing of product, as we have at least one person I know of who is interested in cultivating it commercially. And I think that would make you more of an integral part of our community if you made an effort to do so.
We would in fact appreciate any work that could be done by the board to connect us up with people we may not even know who they are.
They'll find you, yeah.
Madam Chair, and I'm not sure we should be doing that. In other words.
Oh, yeah, we can do it on.
Can't be the middleman, yeah.
Ms. Brunage.
Yes, Berta Brunage. So I live on an unpaved road in South Wellfleet, and the U.S. Postal Service does not deliver to unpaved roads. So since 1976, I have had a post office box in South Wellfleet. That parking lot is totally inadequate for a marijuana store. You know, you can hardly park down there in the summertime now, and the traffic along Route 6 and the Count Hollow Road is terrible. There are other businesses there. I mean, I think the least that the town can require is a traffic study. That is going to be a horror show. And I'm sure anyone who lives down there in South Wellfleet will tell you the same. So please, let's require something there. The parking is totally inadequate. There are other businesses there as well. And there are a lot of people who have to get their mail there. Thank you.
So we'll have Mr. Clough to say what he plans to do about the parking. But wait, so when they came before, they said, they were here a couple months ago or so, they will hire a policeman, okay? Yes, that's a start, okay? I think probably everyone here, first of all, this is taking a long time, right? People aren't even getting their licenses. In 1 year come July, there's 6 licenses in all of Massachusetts, and I don't hear on the news anymore that there's a big rush anymore. And, and then, what?
There certainly seems to be a rush in Wellfleet.
For traffic at a marijuana place? Okay, there's not a rush of people in line, getting to a line anymore at the new places that are opening up. So I believe that, well, they're not, like, I just had breakfast with the guy from Wareham, and he says it's busy, but it's not like the place up in wherever. So they anyhow, okay, okay, deep breath in, relax. They assured us that they would take care and do traffic, and if it's bad, then we'll get more. I can remember the PB having a huge effect on traffic there, so we're well aware of the traffic there. I'm from South Wellfleet, you know, it's a concern, but it's not that bad of a concern. And what we can also do, or what they can do, is they can designate parking only for the post office, things like that, and for the liquor store too. You know, they can designate their parking, and there can be a policeman there. I mean, when you know, no one wants to create mayhem.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We are endeavoring to work with all of the store owners around. I have already spoken to the lovely young lady in the post office, and we have made it very clear that within the rules of the town of Wellfleet, I can't tell her she can paint U.S. Post Office on those parking spaces, but what I can say is that we as a business would endorse them having controlled right in front of their store space that is designated for them only. And we just today had a meeting with the owners of the restaurant across the street.
The PB, yeah.
Lovely people, and again, they're more interested in working with us to figure out the parking than they are concerned about something we might take away from them.
Yeah, yeah. And if something needs to be done, it'll be done.
Janet.
In a timely manner. Wayne was going to say something first.
Wayne Clough, just 2 quick questions. Where are the other 2 facilities that you're working on? And obviously a lot of it, this has to do with what the state provides, but given your best guesstimate, when do you think you'd be open if this is approved?
The other 2 stores that we are working on are in Brighton and Mashpee, Brighton in Boston.
Okay.
And Mashpee. We are also working in Mashpee to create a small grow facility on the order of similar size to the one you're creating here. Again, a relatively small amount, boutique service of our own. And if everything goes very well, we have a sense of confidence that if we are fortunate enough to get the HCA from the community of Wellfleet, that we will begin work immediately on the construction, because we believe the state will support us if Wellfleet does. And we think that if all goes very well, we could be open as early as July.
Okay. Just one other question. Are you David Rice?
I'm David Pike.
Pike. Oh,
yeah.
I can't even read. Yes, Pike. Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
I'm getting to you. I'm looking for the agenda. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd like to remind everybody, We have at least 2 other that will probably open up, and Provincetown has a good number, more than that, in the pipeline.
7.
Ideally, all these establishments would open up in the same month. That's not going to happen. But at the same time, they're going to be more and more available by car, more conveniently, marijuana dispensaries on the Cape. And although I know that the South Wellfleet parking lot is terrible in July and August at certain hours, I have to remind everybody that that's because there are a whole lot of other things there. There's the liquor store, there's that nice little, I think Blue Willow is still functioning, there's the post office. And if there could be, you see, even if the post office designates spaces just for them, those people are going to want to go to those other things. That's what that kind of place is. It's the equivalent of the downtown of South Wellfleet. I predict that within a few years, and maybe sooner, marijuana dispensaries are going to be no more traffic causing than liquor stores.
My business model predicts exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And we just have to go through this slight transitional period, and I'm very in support of this as a business, because if you're not growing here yourselves, it's a clean business. It's like a liquor store. You're not putting wastewater to any extent into the ground, so on and so forth.
One quick one.
Okay, remember, we've
Yeah.
already questioned them.
Yeah.
Are you CCC? What
No.
are you here for? Are you,
Item D on your
you're,
agenda.
the old bank? Okay, that's what I just wanted to make, okay. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to tell you that I had coffee with the owner of the liquor store down in that area, and he's not opposed to you coming in there. You didn't mention that you had spoken to him.
No, actually, I spoke to his employee. He was not there that day. I'm still trying to get to him. He's the one shop owner there I haven't been able to speak
Yeah,
to.
well, anyway, I had coffee with him this morning, and he's not opposed. And Helen also brought up one thing. There are going to be maybe 6 marijuana stores in Provincetown. Eastham just voted to do marijuana. So people in Eastham are going to go with Provincetown. They're not going to come here. They're going to be in Provincetown doing what they're doing. So I don't expect that big influx from, Eastham or Truro or Provincetown.
I think the analogy to a liquor store is a very appropriate one.
Yeah, it'll be, even the PB Boulangerie settled down. Okay, they used to be really crowded when they first opened. Any other questions, or may I have a motion?
Can I?
Mr. Elkin?
Madam Chair.
Oh, okay.
Long-term.
Say your name.
Richard Elkin. Long-term, that intersection is a problem now, even without the store occupied in the summer. It would be a problem. Long-term, I think the Select Board should look towards getting a traffic light. Now, I understand that it's a state road and it may be a longer process, but I would recommend that there be a traffic light at the intersection, just from PB, the post office, the liquor store, and anything else that goes in. We should start looking at a traffic study and working towards a light at that intersection.
That's been mentioned a number of times before, but we're not going to comment on that part right now because it isn't part of this.
Janet, I can make a motion.
Good, thank you.
There is one.
I move to issue a host agreement letter for CC Wellfleet RE LLC.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, thank you. So
Thank
while
you.
you both are here, I just want to remind you, I don't know if I said this last time you were here, there was a point where the Select Board decided to limit the number, and we legally can put it, it's in our bylaws, that we can limit the number of marijuana dispensaries in our town. We can always change that. I don't know how the board feels about it, but there are, I think there's like 5 kind of coming before us. So you're getting your thing in possibly under the wire. So we'll see. People come, people go. And I don't know how the state decides on who gets a license, if it's random or anything. But
I'm not altogether certain the state knows how the state decides.
Yeah,
And I don't mean
yeah.
to be sarcastic. It's that
yeah,
messy, though,
no, I
still.
know. It's yeah. So it's a hard guess. and we can always change that. To me, I thought about this long and hard, because that's what I do when we have something. So, you know, you guys, I think you guys are in a good place, because it's not like right there on Route 6. Old bank buildings, good. These are also two buildings, I will add, that need a product that's going to bring people and some money in and fix up the buildings, you know, so, okay, that's it. But just be aware that there, you know, may be some time, but we'll figure that out when it happens. Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Moving on to, no? I
So
don't think so, I don't think they're
You
here.
have agenda item C is next on your list. I talked to the attorney, Mr. Zender.
Yeah.
Neither he or the client were able to be here.
Oh, okay.
He said, I wouldn't think that they would need us to be there, it's just an address change. But if you would like them to be in front of you, we can postpone this until April the 9th.
I would like to postpone, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Okay, anybody, what else?
I have quite a number of questions for Mr. Zender.
Okay, anybody else have a comment? And then we can make a motion.
So this was, through you to the town administrator, this was the first group that came before us.
No, it's the second.
It was the second?
This one was the original one that was
Yes.
going to be located at the South Wellfleet General Store.
Yes.
The other one was, the first one was the one that wanted to be
Yes.
by VRs and
With
the
a-
mini.
Right.
mini,
This was the
Which
second.
are not happening, by the way.
And we had a lot of exposure to them with our visit with them, you know, the presentation visit, right? And I asked a lot of questions. And I have to say, since this is changing from the general store to the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot situation, which I think is an excellent place, because there's tons of parking, and it's the same set of host agreement stuff. This is not a host agreement, this is,
Yeah, it is.
it's an no, it's just an amendment.
No,
to
it's
them.
not. It's an entirely new management team.
It's a new group.
And I have a lot of legal questions for Mr. Zender.
Okay,
I'm
no.
uncomfortable moving on this tonight.
So I'm comfortable
We're
waiting.
asking to postpone?
We can
Yeah, I'm
postpone.
comfortable waiting if that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do we
I
need a
didn't see
motion?
any
Move
amendments.
that we postpone this
Or no
hearing
action?
until April
Second,
9th.
or no action,
No action.
yeah.
I just need a motion.
I will put it on, Jerry made a motion.
So
I
there's-
seconded it.
Yeah.
I need a second.
I
Second.
seconded it.
Okay, all in favor of postponing or taking no action? What do we want the wording to say?
Postpone is fine,
Yeah.
and I'll
I
put
like-
it
I
on the
like
April
postpone,
9th
it's more
agenda.
legal.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Question?
So, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question. I don't know, maybe Dan can answer it. Where are they going in the Dunkin' Donut? Do we know what slot?
Salvage
That's-
store?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
You'll miss your donut? Wayne?
Okay, would you like to introduce yourself and do a, yeah,
Yeah, thank you for having me and
You're welcome.
accepting my presentation, considering my proposal. My name is Zachary Ment. I live in Truro. Lived there for about 10 years now. And for the past year or so, I've been employed as Vice President of Operations for a marijuana company located in Boston, seeking permits throughout the state, including a 70,000 square foot grow facility in Fitchburg, which we have fully permitted. So in the interest of time and how long the agenda for this meeting is, I'd like to offer to either go through the presentation that I've presented to you or just move straight to questions and answer them as I can.
what would the board like?
I would,
Oh, sorry, Helen.
no, it's okay.
Well, given we're postponing the other group, is that a hardship for you to come back? Are you coming
Well,
from
I don't
Boston?
know if
Are
we
you
need to
coming
I don't
from
want to, I'm
Boston?
not offering to come back.
He's not-
I think
yeah.
I'd like to just
Okay.
be able to answer some questions and see if I can get your approval for this location.
So-
Or non-opposition, as it were. I wrote a letter that's included in it and
Okay.
to introduce the presentation, but instead of going through slide by slide, I'm happy to go through it as well. I'm just trying to be conscientious of the time constraints.
So this is, they're requesting to have, it's to be called the Old Bank Cannabis Dispensary. It's in the old Cape Cod Bank and Trust and the old TD Bank, the old yellow building right on the corner of Main and oh, you got one vote. And Route 6. And I guess the only question I have is, can you dispense it through the old?
Unfortunately,
You shouldn't.
unfortunately
You
not,
shouldn't.
no.
Okay.
Not
you
gonna be
shouldn't.
doing a
I know.
drive.
I'm
Strictly
kidding.
prohibited.
I'm kidding. Okay. So any, so I, to just, so you've got the agreement from the owner, and it's, I know that the septic has always been an issue there, and water, and have you gone further with, say, the Board of Health or any kind of design plans?
Yeah, so I reached out before I reached out to Joe Powers and Dan Hort about coming in front of this board. I reached out to the police chief, fire chief, Hillary at the Conservation Commission and Board of Health about all those kind of issues. It is in the new. It wasn't before, but it's in the new FEMA floodplain. But the building is above the elevation that's marked on that 100-year flood mark. So, I'm discussing with engineers and architects about a plan for that, and I understand that it's a sensitive flood zone. So we're going to be sensitive about that and try to, really the whole idea in terms of a design there is to revitalize a building that hasn't been used for some time. We would like to leave it the way it is and use the character that was always there, but just give it a good fresh coat of paint, some new trim, and
A little new trim, yeah.
and obviously redesign the inside, which I can go over with you if you'd like.
And do you have so you said you've already been in the business and you already have a supply or whatever you call it?
So
Or would you
yeah, so
explain
I've
that
watched
a bit?
some of your hearings and took very seriously this discussion you just had with the previous group about needing medical marijuana facilities. And my intention in getting involved in this business was to increase the supply of medical marijuana. So it's interesting that now I'm here applying for a recreational host agreement. The state requires that beyond what the legal counsel for the previous group said, which I wasn't even aware of actually, the state requires vertical integration to dispense medical marijuana by name. And I don't have those types of resources to do that right now, just to be perfectly honest. I've looked since I found that out, that this board was interested in that. I've looked into ways of partnering with or somehow securing a supply of my own so that I could apply for a medical license. It's not going to be feasible right now, but what I can promise is to continue to seek that. And my end goal would be to co-locate and have a medical and recreational store where medical patients are given special attention. And in my designs even with my architect, there's private consultation rooms because for HEPA compliance, so you can talk about your illnesses and what medicines work best, which strains, what types of lotions or edibles would be better than smoking, for example, without it being in public in a sales environment.
Yeah. Interesting. Justina had her hand up first.
Kathleen? I think.
Who did? Okay.
Okay, so first of all, I assume you have some funding?
Yes.
Do you care to say anything about that?
Well,
I mean, you don't have to.
No,
I
no,
wanna-
no. I right at this stage, I've first of all, I've met a lot of people in my journey into this industry, working in Boston. I'm operations and finance, so one of my main jobs is talking to investors. The company I work for right now is fully aware of my plans to try to do this, and so I would be, if I receive this letter, I would immediately be taking a step back and moving to a consulting role with them.
And then lining up investors?
So I have spoken with investors. I don't have any commitments from anyone, obviously, but I've
Okay.
told them my plan and have commitments. And I also have saved some money on my own.
Okay, I don't want to ask you to reveal your business secrets.
No, but that is, it's a legitimate question because it's one of the things that at least the Department of Health and the Cannabis Control Commission ask for is proof of funds, because they want to know that this isn't just someone that has a lofty idea. They want to make sure that it can actually be done and done correctly.
Sure.
And I'd say that is true.
And then reading your bio, I see you had a past with your mother's battle with breast cancer, so I assume some of your motives to go into this business are result from that experience?
I would say all of it. I'm not a major user of marijuana. I was never really into it. But when my mother was ill and other medications weren't working for her, it was pretty amazing what it could do for her. And we broke the law to try to get it for her through federal law, through the mail.
Sure.
My sister would fake illnesses in California, and I don't want to get into more here,
Right,
but
yeah.
you know, it just was pretty messed up. But it's something that anyone would do for their family members, and I've met a lot of people like that. And I would like to. I joined a wellness company that was seeking a medical license, but the way this industry is going, I just want to explain a little bit about medical versus recreational marijuana, because there was some questions about it. It will be the same strains, and we will supply medical quality marijuana for illnesses. You just don't have to have a prescription for them. And now, in terms of a discount, there is about a 20% sales tax on recreational marijuana that would not apply if someone had a prescription from a doctor. There's also different doses. There's limits on how much recreational marijuana you can buy at any given time, where those limits can be higher if those are needed for an actual illness. So there's a lot of reasons why I believe that the medical industry will survive and be valuable just from a business perspective. But that's truly what I want to do. But I'd have to take this as a first step to get there.
Sure. That's great, and I'll tell you why I'm asking that type of question. And from the previous group, I'm looking for people who have some commitment beyond financial to the business, because it's that kind of passion that results in good business actors who can join our community and our business community and help Wellfleet, make a responsible transition in this area. So thank you.
Well, I think you have some local connections too. I noticed that Trudy Vermeer is working with you, and you have family in this area.
Janet?
Right. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Zachary, you are, for full transparency to the audience and to the Select Board, are you not the son-in-law of Roland Latender, the owner of the property?
Yes, I am.
And just to make sure we're on the same page, you're not here for a host agreement with us this evening. You're here to make a presentation. We have 3 of these in the works right now: the South Wellfleet General Store, Cove Corner, and Bank Street. We did make a decision to limit at 3. We can change that, but we have not made that jump yet.
Thank you for that information.
Madam Chair.
That's what I said before, and that, again, it's not easy
Yeah.
getting the licensing, and I think we were really concerned about where they would going and how they would be used, but still, that's.
May I just address your question about the transparency and my relationship to the Latender family? My wife is Emily Latender. I guess I should give a little bit of background then.
Probably should have done that to start with. Yeah.
So I washed ashore here officially 10 years ago, but probably 14 years ago. My first job was for Suzanne as a lifeguard when I was 16 years old, and that was the best job I've ever had still. And I met my wife lifeguarding, Emily Latender, and she has a wonderful family that has deep roots here in Wellfleet and owns property here in Wellfleet. And I've lived in Truro and tried to make a living for myself, and Emily has as well in Truro. And we tried moving to Boston for work. Mm-hmm. And here I was presented with an opportunity to start a business here and move here and live where we want to live and be able to make a living doing it. So I don't again, if I need to disclose any, I'm not sure, what I'm asking is what are you asking by asking me to disclose that?
I wanted you to establish to the audience and the select board your family connection, simply
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah, sure.
I'm not putting you on the spot
Okay.
here.
All right, thank you.
Okay, can we have a long evening ahead of us, so Jerry has something to say?
I did have my
Just
hand
wondering
up.
if he's going to use the drive-up window.
You
That's-
can't, Jerry.
Already asked.
I can't.
I know, we're
Can.
kidding, yes.
That'd be
Helen.
great,
So-
though.
So I'd like to remind the board, we have the discretion, we can't have less than 3, okay? But with that article, and it was approved by the AG's office, and we'll see if it stands up, but it should. We discussed this before and thought,
So I'm
we
going
want
to
to do
interrupt you.
this, and
This
we
is,
can.
you're bringing this up for the third time, that I
Not
said it,
tonight.
Kathleen, yeah, I said it, Kathleen said it, I said it earlier.
But I'm
when
going
the-
to say something new.
That we as a board discussed that, and we thought it would be good to limit it, but there have been a number of other people presenting, and they're presenting in what, at this point, I think are, I'll say considerate areas, like feasible areas. So unless you have something, we can reconsider that. We can reconsider what we wanted to do, and it would be fine. But go ahead, if it's new information.
Well, you just said what the person who was making the presentation hadn't heard yet, which is we can reconsider it.
No, I did say that. I did, yep. Anyhow, I said we can reconsider it. Oh, I did. Okay, so let's have a motion
Well,
and.
may I
go
just
ahead.
ask, because I am a little bit confused about the process, and so when I spoke with Joe Powers about bringing this presentation, so I am a little bit unsure what I was asking for, because I did request in the letter a host agreement. But I think what Joe said, that the process is that the board will consider your business plan and your proposal, and then he says that they most often will authorize the town to negotiate this agreement. Now, this agreement, from what I understand, is a template, and so I'm a little bit unsure why.
So we have you down on the agenda as a presentation of an adult use of marijuana establishment. I'm not so sure the first person who came before us asked for a presentation. I think they immediately asked for a host.
No, they got it.
No, the one down by VR's?
Yeah, Valero, yeah. They came
Yeah.
as a presentation and
Okay.
then.
So I'm just
So
wondering, so I know
it's-
whether I need to make another request to come back and actually execute one, or if this
So
is
if-
sufficient.
Yeah.
What we have done in the past, and I would assume that you would follow the same direction, is we've had people come before you and do a presentation. If you find their presentation acceptable in their business plan, then you would direct staff to work out a host community agreement with Mr. Men and his company. So that would be the next step. One clarification that I'd like to make about your bylaw is your bylaw allows you to limit the number of licenses, but you have never voted to actually limit that. It gives you the right to do it, but you have not actually done
Yeah,
it. So
we've
there
had
is
a-
no limit at this time.
Informal agreement.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And we have no licenses yet in
Right.
Wellfleet. We only
Right.
have host community agreements.
So then could I have a motion to accept or not accept the presentation from the Old Bank Dispensary? And then, you would then go make a more formal host agreement
Do we need a motion?
presentation.
Janet? Can I say something for the sake of discussion? So you are our fourth, right? And now you understand the process. Before we ask you to go through coming to us with an agenda item for a host agreement, I would like at our next meeting for us to simply discuss where we are about this in general, okay? So you don't have to come back yourself, you can attend, anybody can come. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now we're at this tipping point.
It's a
Let's
good-
have.
It's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
However, we're not at the tipping point because no one's gotten a license yet. And
That's
that
right.
tipping point may not even be for another year or so. I don't think I don't think anyone's going to be ready with the state license by this summer, so, yes, Justina.
Just quickly, I'm really impressed by this presentation, and this is a company, a proposed company with deep local roots. This is the kind of way I would hope marijuana could come to our community, to be run by people with roots to the community. So that weighs in heavily for me.
I agree.
And just on your technical talk about discussing the number now, and maybe this isn't even possible, but I know that you have town meeting coming up on April 22nd. So for me, again, I have already partially resigned from my job to come and do this on a limb, not expecting anything, but delays beget delays, and if I would be able to negotiate a template agreement and then come back to you at next meeting, that would be ideal for me, rather than you discussing the number next meeting and then there's town meeting and then I'd be on after that.
Yeah. So that's fine. All we have to do tonight is to approve your presentation, and then you can talk to Mr. Hort about getting a template. And I think, and does everyone agree that in our next meeting in 2 weeks, it would be fine to come back for the host agreement?
Yes, just so long as you understand, we may not grant it then, although
Completely
I'm not
understand.
saying we won't, okay? And I agree with Justina, but,
Okay, good. We
No,
got
I
it.
understand. Yeah, that's
got
been
it.
clear to me from the beginning, that there may be a limit, and there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees at all in this business. It's not
Never.
just you.
In life. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Zach, I just want to say that, I wish you the best with this as well. And realistically, this could take a lot longer than you're looking to want to spend. You're going to have to give us a traffic study on that corner. Know that the state's going to come in with a light change at that corner. And I work in the restaurant next door. We abut a wetland, and you're going to have some significant hurdles with the Conservation Commission. So it's not going to be a slam dunk, even if we say yes, there's still a waiting time for you. I just want you to be realistic with.
I completely understand, and while I
That.
would prefer not to do a traffic study, I've already reached out and I provided that proposal in my package to you because I thought that may be an issue.
It's probably going to be required when you go to the ZBA.
And I am aware of the new light. I've spoken with Chief Facette about that as well.
Right.
And his concerns.
Great.
So,
Good.
but thank you.
Okay, so may I have a motion to accept the presentation of Old Bank Cannabis Dispensary?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And talk to Mr. Hort.
I will.
Streamlining.
Streamlining what? Okay. Okay, finalizing the closing of annual town meeting warrant.
No, a conduit.
No.
Oh, yes.
So, to make all of you guys standing in the back and being here, are you guys, what's everyone here for? I'm sure you're not here. Are you here? Okay, we'll start with the bottom. Are you here for the Wellfish Shellfish Association's request for a letter of support? We're going to do it. Go home, go to bed. I mean, that's not going to come, that's at the end of our meeting. We've got another hour to go.
May I
So
take
we
it out
could
of
take it
order?
out of order. All right, we'll do that. Eversource petition, we're going to agree with, we're going to do that. Okay, so is anybody here for the discussion of any of the town warrant articles?
Yeah.
Dredging, and, okay, so let's take the Wellfish Shellfish Association request for a letter of support that Ginny Parker wrote first, and then
Yeah.
we'll move on to the town warrant.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, good letter. It comes from this newly formed association.
Oh, and I'd like to say that Mike DeVasto wrote it.
And it's a good letter, and I have a suggestion that will compound it in efficiency. WSA, Wellfleet Shellfishing Association, sends your letter, and we write a letter in the same vein, okay? Yeah, and also, I suggest that you approach our Shellfish Advisory Board, which has a record of going, into that kind of thing, and get them to write it too. So, I can't hear you.
You have to go to the mic, Mike.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Michael DeVasto. We're actively speaking with the advisory board. There's several members of the advisory board that are also members of the association. So what we're hoping to do is to get support for the letter, signed support, or for you guys to draft a letter basically opposing the bill going forward. Yeah, we'd like to get some co-signers onto our letter as well, so including the Shellfish Advisory Board.
Is this time sensitive? I mean, not to put it off a
Not
week,
time
but
sensitive,
but soon.
It's not time sensitive in that like things aren't happening right. Like there's no
Next
vote
week.
coming up.
Yeah.
Right, but there's a lot of you can see from the bill was submitted in your packet, right? The
Yeah.
change. So there's a lot of co-sponsors on there. It's mostly Plymouth, Duxbury. There's definitely a lot of lobbying for this bill, and we would like not just our reps because they already know and they are aware of our stance, and they're with us already. So sending it to Sarah Peak and to Julian Sear, we're preaching to the choir a little bit.
Yeah.
We'd like letters to be sent to other representatives that maybe aren't our constituents, but we're all residents of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we should make our voices heard to them too, because the issue really is that this would allow the legal sale of aquaculture licenses by right in the state of Massachusetts to any person or entity, which would essentially lead to consolidation of the industry, because an entity can be anyone, and the word shall has been put in there, which means that state right, I have a license, I could sell it to anyone, anywhere, and it would take away the Board of Selectmen's ability to really regulate who has licenses in the town, because if you have the right to own it by right, then it's going to be hard for the board to overrule that in any way. So it's really important for you guys, for your regulatory authority over the licenses of aquaculture.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I volunteer to write our letter, and we can have it and sign it at our next meeting on April 9th. And I hope the Shellfish Committee writes their letter, so they get it from 3 different places here.
Sure. We're just really here to request your support for the opposition of this bill.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Who was up first?
Yeah, so do I understand correctly that you wouldn't have to be a Wellfleet resident?
It's more complicated than that.
Yes or no, Helen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'll also
Well-
want to say, I'm not finished, please, that I heard from Sarah Peak personally and directly on this legislation, and I'm going to take her at her word. This bill could sit on that table for 12 years. They've got an eye on this, they don't want this to go through, and they're going to fight very hard for all of you out there.
But yeah, I trust that she feels that way. I also know that just the risk of it going forward, the MAA certainly does not think that way. And they're the people who produced this bill and sent it. They have numerous co-sponsors, and not everyone's a coastal community. The Duxbury and Kingston area.
I understand that, Michael, I understand
Voting
that. I just wanted to,
Yeah. I just want to say that just because our reps are against it doesn't mean that it's not going to pass either, you know? There's a lot of...
You never
well,
know.
legislation, as we know it, can sit a long time.
Sure.
Look at our Airbnb tax.
Yep.
How long did that take? 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to convince me that it could sit there. This is just about the fact that we
Right.
want to make
Right.
sure that
No,
it does.
you're right to
I
be
just,
proactive.
I just don't like having fear, pushed down me like this way.
Sure, I'm not trying to give you fear, but it actually is. This is a major change in the way aquaculture would be governed in the state. And the Massachusetts Aquaculture Association, and there's lobbyists, lawyers involved. They're pushing to move this through. They certainly think that they seem to think that there's a high probability that they can get this passed. And so if they're a major aquaculture association, and
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I'm not here to debate with you, Michael.
no, I know. I'm just saying that there is a fear, amongst all of us. And the fact that our reps do not believe that this is going to go forward alleviates some of that fear, but they're just two out of many representatives and senators.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Safe than sorry. Justina?
Oh, I just, it's a long night and we're kind of rushing, but I do know that there are people watching on TV and so forth, so just to say, Michael DeBastia, who just spoke, did write a wonderful letter, and then I know Helen will, but I think that, after this bill, there could be others, and Michael's letter talks about the impact of privatization on our local fishery, because it would be huge. It would make it very, very difficult for small producers to compete the same way in the farming industry. When large farms come in, there's economies of scale, and so our smaller farms locally, and our long, proud tradition, and our second largest source of jobs. So these are important trends, and I'm glad that the shellfishing community has organized and are bringing it to our attention.
Yes, go ahead, Brett.
Hi, I'm Brett Morse, and I just wanted to thank you guys for supporting this letter, because tomorrow Ginny Parker and I are going to the State House to meet with Sarah Peak, and we're going in front of the MAA and their stakeholders, and one of them includes the Director of Agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me great confidence that you are standing behind me when I go there tomorrow, because I'm going to tell them that we are standing up for the little guy in Wellfleet, and we want to protect our way of life that we've had for hundreds of years here.
So that's why I asked if it was time sensitive. Are you guys leaving early in the morning?
Yes.
All right, okay.
But that,
But just know that-
being able to
just
say
say
that
that
the
we have-
selectmen
you
are
have our
behind us
support,
on
yeah.
this is a big deal, and I appreciate that. I wanted to say that.
Janet?
Well, you're welcome. We know it's important.
Janet?
Yes.
The real issue, and actually through you to Kathleen, the really accurate answer is yes and no, not just yes. But, to your question, but the real issue here is it wants to change language, making it mandatory to do this, to sell licenses,
Thank you.
not an option.
Right.
And this is against, I'm going to say to the public something briefly that's going to be in the letter that I think we're going to sign. This is unlike anything with zoning, Board of Health regulations, any of the other local things you have in a home rule state where these land use decisions get made in a way that's specific to where they're going to be applied. And it's the way Massachusetts is set up in every other land use sort of agency, and why this would become mandatory for our specific harbor and our shellfish industry where it's so inappropriate. That's really poisonous. If they want to do it, fine. We don't, as far as I can make out.
Yeah. Jerry?
Yeah, Mike, I have a question for you. How are the other towns on the Cape handling this? Do you know?
The sentiment is that that it's opposed by at least everyone we are in contact with in the Outer Cape. There are aquaculturists that are for this bill. The idea that you might be able to sell your lease, similar to how a lobsterman can sell his permit, it's profitable. I mean, it's in any aquaculturist's interest financially for this to go forward, right? Because we have something that's worth nothing right now as market value, okay? But there is no market value to the license, you know? So the idea that you could all of a sudden have market value to something that you own, but you didn't have to do anything to get that market value, that's just become, so there are people who support this, you know?
On the
And
Cape.
it's mostly bigger growers. And also people who don't necessarily either care about the future of the industry or don't understand the implications of what it would do to small aquaculture. Because really, anyone who's in this industry, who's operating on 1, 2, 3, even 7 acres, knows that they can't compete with groups operating on 26 acres in this town, right? We can't compete on price. Like the scale of production becomes limited on your acreage. You can only afford to hire 2 people to farm on an acre. Those kind of things would sort of destroy small farming to the point where people would wind up selling their licenses just to get out of the business. And that's how I view it anyways. So.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because I'm going to call a fellow selectman in Harwich, it's a friend of mine, and I'm going to ask him to put it on the county agenda for our April meeting, which will probably
good
be
idea.
around the middle of October. And I'm hoping that our board members who can will go to that meeting. I'll be
That's a good
one of
idea.
them.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll put it on the agenda. I think it will.
Yeah.
And we can have a broad discussion. And if we can get a majority vote, then we can have the county also write a letter.
Regional.
The County Selectmen's Association and councilors write a letter, and I think that'd be helpful also.
Yeah, I mean, any sort of like push for, I mean, we're just one organization. We're associated with another association, which is the Nauset Shellfishers Association, and that's Eastham and Orleans. We're also working with Provincetown and Truro aquaculturists that are in opposition to this as well.
Okay.
And it's really just about the future of the industry.
Yeah.
Because this kind of things have happened in other industries, like lobster permits are,
Fishing, yeah.
you know, one example of like, you know, how things can go and consolidate scallop boats.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Good, thank you.
By the way, you're going to be here in about a month.
You're going to be the new Jerry.
Yeah, never mind, I'll put it in the letter.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Great, thank you. So we will now approve the 5 combination beach transfer station stickers drawing at the end of town meeting. Remember that?
Yeah, I move that we
So-
do that.
Okay.
I move that we approve the drawing for 5 combination beach transfer station stickers at the end of the annual town meeting.
Is there a
Second.
second? All in
3
favor?
seconds.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's okay.
And then do we want to discuss any questions on the Eversource petition?
Yeah,
We didn't
Okay.
vote on,
Let's get it out of the way.
that.
Yeah, just if there's any discussion, we could have,
On the stickers, we didn't vote.
yeah, we just did.
We did.
Okay, sorry. I looked to see, okay, all in favor of securing the stickers for town meeting?
Yeah. Through you,
Giveaway.
Madam Chair, could we please ask the people talking in the hall to
Especially
go,
Mike.
to
Can you
go
not
out
talk?
of
Thank you.
earshot, please, because it's really audible up here,
Yeah.
or close the door? Oh, they were in the room, great,
Thank
okay,
you.
sorry.
Okay, so should we not postpone, but should we do the finalize and close the town meeting and wait for Eversource, or just,
Let's do, through you, Madam Chair,
yes, do you want to do
may we
Eversource?
do Eversource and get it out of the way?
That's what I would like to. So it's,
It's here, it's this.
number 6 and
It's
business G. So this is just to approve a conduit. We actually had this come before us before, and they did it before, and then they just want to move it. So it's just down here on Old County Road. It's just moving. There's, if you've driven down here, there's a division of land, and they want to put the,
Old Jaquesset. We got a different map.
gosh darn it, okay, I thought it said Old County.
No,
So
Old
it
Kings
came before.
Highway.
No, it does say Old Kings Highway.
Old Kings
What's
Highway.
going on here?
Okay, so on the agenda, it says Old Jaquesset Neck Road.
Yep, but on
And the map, it's Old Kings Highway.
Oh,
so
dear.
Nothing's lined up on this agenda item.
So, Madam Chair, if it's not on the agenda correctly, I believe we
I'm
should
asking
not.
Courtney.
It is for Old Chequesset Neck, but clearly the map that Jean
Wrong
gave me
map.
is wrong, yeah.
Oh, so the agenda item is correct.
Agenda item's correct.
Okay. Can I move that we approve the Eversource petition
No,
for a
I don't
con?
think-
No?
I'm sorry, because Jean's public hearing references Old Kings Highway.
Okay, we can't do it.
So I think we have to wait until the next meeting, because it was not posted as Old Kings Highway, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there, we got that one done.
Okay, check. Yeah, so yeah, all right, we all know. Okay, so moving on to finalize and close town meeting warrant articles, vote. So we did have a very, who's that hand? Oh, Roger, okay. So we did have a very big and I thought successful meeting on Thursday regarding Hilta. And we also talked about dredging then too, but we can talk about it again, I guess.
Madam Chair.
Hold on. So we will first start off, the first thing is vote recommendation on a dredging article.
Wait, Madam Chair, can I ask you a question about as we
Yes.
proceed? So we have a proposed order for the articles in the warrant. And I was going to, and we even have a table of contents, which is really great. We don't usually have that. But I was going to ask you, if I want to propose a change in the order of the warrant articles, when I should do that. Should I do it when it comes up, or when should I do it?
Depends on what you want to change.
Well, no, that's for us to decide, but when would you like me to propose
At
it?
the end of the order, we can discuss it.
Okay.
What? Okay. Yeah, so I'm trying to find my,
Madam
My
Chair, if I
stuff.
can make a suggestion, there's one that should be really easy. It's on this form that I handed out to everybody.
Yeah.
On the back of the page is the Wellfleet Balloon Reduction Bylaw.
oh, okay.
It's just as accepting the amendments as requested by the bylaw committee. And if that's acceptable to everybody and you made that motion, the people who are waiting for that would be able to leave.
Yeah. May I,
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
On this particular bylaw change is just a slight change in language. They've really tightened it up a little bit, and we've already given approval for it. We're just amending the new language.
Yeah.
All right, so I move that Article 38 has amended, the balloon reduction bylaw.
Hold
be
on,
moved.
Dawn's coming up.
Hi. Dan emailed me earlier, and with the corrections, and it was great, except number 6 was omitted.
Okay, wait, slow down. Article number 6?
No, no.
No, fines and
Number
penalties.
6 on the balloon.
What they
Oh,
have in front of
okay.
them
I know.
reflects Article number 6 as well.
Yeah.
Number
No,
6
no,
was
it's
amended.
Article 38, and if you go down,
Yes.
there's changes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, under fines and penalties.
And it's updated in what they have in front of them.
So it's changed from chapter to section?
Yes.
It's updated in what they have in front of them.
Okay,
Yes.
and thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I made a motion.
Second?
What was the motion? To,
I move that the Wellfleet Balloon Reduction Bylaw be inserted into the warrant with the amended language, Article 38.
So moved.
I seconded it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
seconded it.
All in favor?
Great. Thank you to the bylaw review committee for looking at it.
All right. Moving on. So how do we want to do this? Because we were going to take, what else, what do you want to take out of order?
So Dan, I think, just asked us to look at these guys first. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is everything that we
Thank
need
you,
to look
guys.
at, so.
Yeah, so this will take care of my,
Okay.
Yeah, this will take care of it. In other words, we can discuss it as we go down the
I
page.
think most people are here either for the trust or for dredging, so.
That's what I thought. So, yeah, you're here for the trust. Well, wait, I'm not sure what Helen's going to do. So, Helen, what are you going to do?
Well, we're moving down the page here, and the first
Yeah.
thing is Article 1, we need to act on that.
So why don't you read it out and make a motion?
Okay, Article 1, FY 2020 operating budget. The Nauset Regional School District, at the request of the town of Brewster, has included the school OPEB contribution within their annual budget. There is no financial impact to this decision, but it does require the board to make the following motions. The first motion is move to accept the revised operating budget in the amount of $19,037,847, and to affirm the board's recommendation of the operating budget, Article 1, in the 2019 annual town meeting warrant. That's the first motion.
Second?
Any discussion? Any from the audience? All in favor? So unanimous.
The second is to move to rescind the board's vote to insert other post-employment benefits, OPEB appropriations, school, it's called OPEB appropriations dash school, into the 2019 annual town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion from the audience? All in favor? Thank you.
Okay. You want me to keep going?
You said that's what you wanted to do, I thought.
No, but I'll do it. So this article would be listed as Article 12 in the warrant, and it's one of the, in my opinion, time-sensitive.
What's sensitive?
It's a time-sensitive article.
Time-sensitive, okay, I just didn't
So,
hear you.
It's Article
properly.
12, Wellfleet Harbor dredging. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $7,500,000 or any other sum for the purpose of paying all costs related to preventive maintenance dredging and for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto. And then the motion is this. I move to recommend, or not recommend, but I'm going to move to recommend
Okay.
the article to fund the dredging of the Wellfleet Harbor as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? So we'll second it and then we can discuss it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board?
I agree with what the chair said at our Thursday meeting. This has been dropped in our laps. It's an opportunity that we have to take, and I feel that we should vote it at this annual town meeting, because we need the money in case we need it sooner rather than later. The dredging may not happen for 2 years, but we might get an opportunity to be dredged before that. I think we should appropriate the money now. I agree with what the chair said. Watch the video, she was great.
Any
Madam Chair?
questions or okay, yeah.
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort, might you explain for the audience and the TV people watching that this will be a borrowing article that won't be borrowed upon until it's needed?
That is correct.
Thank
So
you.
we're asking for the authorization at this time. We won't actually borrow it until we're ready to go with the local harbor.
Any questions from the audience? Good, okay. Hope it goes this well at town meeting. Good, we've seconded it. All in favor? Thank you. Keep going, Helen. Article 23.
So Article 23, and now I'm going to address my thought.
Just read it.
Yeah, well, no, because I'm going to say, I think that it shouldn't read Article 23. I think it should be Article 13, and here's why. This is also very time-sensitive, and it's a lot of money, but it's time-sensitive. And I think that given the order of the articles, it would be good to see it with its in my mind, affiliated article, also another big ticket item, but they're not unrelated in a lot of ways because they both impact the shellfish industry heavily. And I would like to move that we move this in the order of the warrant to become right after the dredging article is Article 13. So I've made a motion, and do we need to discuss it? I mean, I've said what I think about it.
Well, I would like to say that I was looking at all the order of everything on the warrant earlier, and I wouldn't mind changing it if I could look at it all again and really see more. I would like to look at it again. I don't want to vote on that tonight. I want to look at it again. Do we have to vote on that tonight?
have to vote on it tonight.
On the article number?
Yes, because it's going to the printer tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So may I say a few more things?
No, I think everybody understands that, right? That she wants to move it up in the warrant rather than having it coming towards the end.
If you want to look at it, that is the current.
Okay, oh, good. Oh, this is lovely. All right.
So, Janet?
I want to hear from the rest of the board.
Yes,
Anybody
me
else
too.
have a comment?
Me too.
What is Article 13?
It's, what is it?
Article 13 presently would be, okay, so we go from
So we're doing
dredging. Go ahead.
dredging first as the first borrowing article. Then we go to 4 possible fire department articles so that the moderator can recuse himself for any of they're grouped all together. So we would just be putting the Hilti Trust purchase in front of the fire department articles. Right after dredging with what Helen wants to do.
So then we would do all the fire, all the police requests.
My point. So I've been through a lot of town meetings like the rest of us. There's a kind of meeting fatigue and, appropriation fatigue that can happen. So what I did was I looked at all these different articles that we've carefully vetted. We've had these 2 things dropped in our lap, right? They're both time sensitive and they won't be available in the same way. Even in the fall, it will have all changed. And I think that let's put it this way, I thought that the Thursday meeting where we thought of both of these articles in the same way together, with the same meeting, not in the same way.
Yeah, no, we know, we get it.
Yeah, I think that's the reason I want to do it. I think we should do it. And it's not a terribly long warrant, but I think that after we discuss all those other big ticket items in some cases, some of which are really necessary,
Yeah.
but none of which are as time sensitive, except for the fuel tanks, in my opinion, as these 2 articles. So I would like to consider them together, particularly in the light of this amazing donation.
Anybody else have any comments, or anybody want to see the order? So,
I understand the maneuvering. You're asking voters to spend $7.5 million in Article 12, and then the very next minute, you're asking them in Article 13 to spend 3.5. I would have spread it out a little bit, but that's just me.
yeah, I would think after we talk about ambulances and ladder trucks and front-end loaders, we would have lulled them into a false sense of
Security.
relaxation. Yeah.
But if that's how you want to maneuver this, Helen, I'm fine.
I would, okay, Jerry, do you have anything to say about it? Do you want to see this list?
Move on.
Move on.
So
So I feel like it may not, I agree with Kathleen, that may not be to your advantage, but we'll see how it goes,
So I've made a motion.
Second.
Thank you, and we've discussed it, and there's going to be a lot of questions about this.
Okay, well, you've already, we know you want it. We know you want it.
Don't Don't
Any comment
personalize
from
it.
the town administrator?
You know, I will just tell you that as a town administrator, I want to make sure people stay around for the meeting. So I thought, okay, I'll put one big one first, and then I'll
Yeah.
put one a little bit later so that people don't leave after we
Yeah.
voted after the two big articles. So that's just how my
That's,
mindset goes.
that's
So.
another thing,
I
yeah.
would like to remind you all of something that happened at a fairly
No,
recent town
don't
meeting.
remind
let's not
us.
go
We,
there.
we know, we've all been here, we've all lived here a long
The
time.
noise bylaw thing.
Okay.
Okay, any comments from the, whatever you're called, the audience? The what? The floor, you're right, I knew the audience was wrong, thank you. Okay, yep, so all in favor of changing Article 23 to Article 13? All in favor? Yeah, I don't think it matters, okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then, do you want to give this back to Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to Water Resource Director. Ooh, this is important, too.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is important.
I'm sorry, and if I can interrupt, John, the one thing you haven't done yet is you haven't voted your recommendation.
That's right.
For the Hilton Trust.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I'd like to recuse.
okay, thank you. So now we're moving on to our recommendation for Hilton Trust.
I move to
Approval.
recommend Article 23, the purchase of land from the Hilton Trust, as printed in the warrant.
Ooh, is there a second?
Oh, yeah, thank you. No wonder there was a dead silence.
So
I
any-
move to,
yeah.
may I correct that? I move to recommend Article 13, the purchase of land from the Hilton Trust, as printed in the warrant.
Is that a second or a question, comment? Okay.
Comment.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Helen, I support this, but I still feel there's a lot of homework for us to do on this and a lot of unpacking. I have received some very significant concerns that raise, a number of ways that we could go about doing this. So I'm going to move that we reserve our recommendation for this article until just before town meeting.
Okay,
So that yours was never seconded, right?
I'd like more time.
okay.
Yeah, I think we would come from a better position of support if we had, rather than just tonight moving to recommend with the one number in place with still comprehension to be had, that if we move to reserve recommendation to town meeting after we've done a presentation and after we have all the right information and negotiation, I agree that it would be better.
Again, Madam Chair, at this point in time, Helen, I can't in good conscience say I've done due diligence on this item. I need more time.
Through you, Madam Chair, I agree with that, and that's one of the things the lawyers are going to be looking at between then and now. And I second your motion to reserve recommendation to town meeting, but now
Thank you.
Good. Jerry?
Yeah, I agree with Kathleen and with Helen. I think we need to look at this. I support
Gonna
this
vote,
article,
yeah.
but I agree that we need to do more work on it. And I think at our meeting on Thursday, one of the things that I'd asked for was to have some legal consultation on this.
So we do. And I think we really, I don't know how we're going to do it, but, Mr. Morrissey, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Morrissey, and I'm representing the Wellfleet Forum Board. The Forum Board asked me to approach the selectmen about holding a forum where one or two selectmen would act as advocates for the Hilda Trust article and possibly be supported by the Shellfish Constable for technical information.
We can get a form.
Obviously, this article requires a lot of discussion. It's come up in a very short period of time. You guys haven't had an opportunity to go through it all, and there's many people in the shellfish, who aren't in the shellfish industry, that quite frankly are at a bit of a loss right now, and they would like, I'm sure, to hear from you guys. To that end, I've reserved a room at the library on Wednesday, April 10th in the evening.
So I'm going to interrupt you. Do you feel, Mr. Hort, that we'll have information by April 10th? Or should it even be possibly later? I was thinking that April 10th is 2 weeks
15th.
away.
The following week is pre-town meeting, and the following Monday is town meeting, so.
In conversations with the attorney for the people we would be purchasing this from, I gave them a target date of April 9th to have something to the Board of Selectmen, because that's your last meeting prior,
All right.
scheduled meeting
Okay, so
prior
we
to
will
town
talk
meeting.
about it.
So I think we'll have more information, whether everything will be final at that time, we'll have more information to be able to explain it to people.
Okay, all right.
So,
Madam Chair, to announce,
Just, yeah,
Oh, I want-
let John finish.
the board asked me to ascertain the attendance of one or two select people. I know
Certainly.
all five wouldn't be there, because then you'd be in
A quorum.
a quorum.
Or- yeah.
And, you know, if you guys want to decide who will come, that would be great, if that thing works out. But we envision a short presentation on your part, or even just a discussion, and then probably answering a lot of questions that people are going to ask.
Yeah, and the shellfish constable, and, yes, I mean, yes, we need a forum on this, so, good.
What are the hours, John?
I've reserved the library at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, on April 10th, and I'll send this to you in an email to firm it up.
Yeah, to everyone, good.
We will start the forum publicity mill going as soon as we ascertain your attendance.
Okay,
Yeah, and-
so there is a motion on the table, and it has been seconded about recommending,
Reserve
to reserve recommendation on this.
Yeah.
Okay, can we take a vote? Or do you have to say something? Okay, all in favor of reserving recommendation for town meeting? Okay, unanimous. Where'd Justina go?
She's recused.
Oh, that's right.
So just to let
This-
the public know, tomorrow night, the Finance Committee, who are filmed these days, they're videoed, will be discussing this article. So in the interest of everybody getting as much information as possible, you can watch that too, as well as our Thursday meeting about it.
May I ask a question of Mr. Morrissey? In general, the forum usually has a pre-town meeting forum.
Yeah.
Are you considering this one at the library on the 10th just for this trust purchase? Will you
Yes.
have a separate one then?
I think it's the following Tuesday. I'll send it to you in an
Okay, okay, so this one is just for the trust purchase. Thank you. Yeah.
And I will go, but I hope other people go. In other words,
Of course,
Yeah.
we got it, that's clear.
Let me
Okay.
get Justina.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, bring her back.
And then we'll move on to the article for the water, we have to bring it back, for its Water
Yeah.
Resource Director. I still don't understand it.
Which one? So let's look at the new language.
See what you're in for, Mike?
So Justina's back. So Justina, we moved to reserve recommendation for town meeting for the Hilta article.
Reserve?
Yeah.
So,
Where is
where is the new
that?
language
So
again?
at the end of the warrant that you have in your agenda
Okay, here we go.
is separate items for the Water Resource Director. And for you and for others watching on TV, after the last meeting, on March 4th, the board voted to insert and recommend the article requesting a Water Resource Director by a vote of 4-1. The board also referenced amended language that would be possible. So myself, Selectman Wilson, Assistant Town Administrator Joe Powers, Alex Hay from the Comprehensive Wastewater Planning Committee, and Hillary Lemos Greenberg are health and conservation agent, all met and discussed what we wanted to do with this article. I encouraged the group to consider that we would want to request funding so that we could move forward with this concept, but that I didn't think we were there yet about how we actually wanted to do this. Selectman Wilson had kind of written an article that was leaning towards putting this position as a part-time position or a support position in the health and conservation agent, and I wasn't comfortable enough that I had enough of a conversation with the health and conservation agent that I felt that was where that position should go. So what I wrote was an amended version, which you will see is called version 2. It is basically asking for funding so that for support for the water system and support for the comprehensive wastewater management committee and their work, and that it be determined after town meeting exactly what this is going to look like, and that I felt we needed to do more work to decide exactly what it was going to look like, because we have definitely have needs in our water system. We need to look at how it operates, what our financial model is, and we need to get that cleaned up to make it operate better. And then we also have a number of needs as we get our watershed permit and the 208 wastewater plan, when we need to start working on that. But as town administrator, I can't come to you right now and tell you exactly what I think it needs to look like. I really think we need to have more conversation yet on that.
So, again, we've gotten a lot of different papers and revisions on this.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, this is, again, one of those complex, it's complex. So you're proposing the revised revision 2, or are you, yeah?
So what I'm saying to you is, if you want to keep exactly what you had before, you can do that. I have a version 2, which I recommended, that I thought would achieve what we need as far as funding, and then we still have more work to do exactly to see what this turns out to be and whether we need to hire a full-time staff person, whether we can hire consultants to do it. I don't think we need to hire immediately. We don't need to hire a full-time staff person. So I think we really need to flush this out. So that's what I've tried to do with option 2, is give us the ability to not say we're immediately going to hire a water resource director, but we're going to secure the funding for this, and then we're going to continue to do more work on exactly what this needs to look like.
Madam Chair. Nobody's talking except me. So I gave Helen my thing to look at. So I just want to clarify that we also have this revised that looks really similar. I want to know if,
That's the same as version 2.
it's the exact same as version 2. Okay. Good, I like it.
So now may I say something about our process the other day so that Kathleen and Janet and Jerry can know about it. So we met, as Dan described, and we drafted and discussed, and we arrived at this version 2. And I can support it. I have one suggestion for the summary, because I care very much about summaries, but I wanted you to know what the process was. We were all there, we all said things, and this is what Dan drafted for us, and I can support it.
Yep.
The only thing, I have 2 reservations, and I'd like us to think about them, okay? The first is, summaries are very important, and they should be absolutely accurate. And although much of it is accurate, if you're going to describe what the water commissioners have for support, which they deserve every bit of, you have to mention that they get, and they're asking for $4,000. Excuse me, I'm talking Kurt.
I have no idea what the board is talking about.
Yeah, okay.
It was in our packet, it was on the town website. Okay.
You can, here, take this.
You may look at
Here,
this one here I
okay.
have. This is,
Sorry.
So it's kind of, and Jim, yeah, you guys don't have it either. Jim, come
Oh,
up and
dear.
get this so you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So may I continue?
Just wait a second, let them get settled, let them read. These are the water commissioner and the wastewater people. You want to really let them know what we're talking about.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
would it make any sense for them to come up here? So
Oh.
that
They could, we can take a moment.
Yeah.
And actually, I was going to, while we're waiting for them to read it, maybe someone could read it for the audience.
Okay, I would like to do that.
Condense
Question
it.
for Dan.
Okay, Kathleen has a question for Dan.
And I'm sorry to cut Helen off.
It's
My
okay.
apologies. Dan, my question to you is, I'm hearing your thinking on option 2. Could we not even have this as an article at this point in time? Could we just simply look at maybe doing some free cash to get a consultant in to start as a starting point? I'm just thinking that it's a very financially heavy warrant, and I would appreciate if we could take one spending item off if you thought within your scope of things there might be some free cash to get us a consultant to get started. Is that a possibility?
it is a possibility. We could use free cash to do that. My only concern with that is, and I've heard from a variety of people, not always the same information coming from every person. So I can't tell you exactly
Yeah, I know.
if we wait a year on this and don't have the ability to bring somebody on board to address the tulip plan or the watershed permit. I can't tell you exactly whether that would be a very negative, if it would be, how negative that would be if we had to wait for a year to
So
be able
are
to
you
do that.
saying that you'd like some money in the bank first?
What I'd like to be able to do is, if the DEP moves faster than we think they're going to, because the last meeting that we've had with them, they made some changes that were really kind of surprising at how quickly kind of they were looking at going. I don't want to get caught that we can't do anything if 6 months after town meeting, they're ready to move and we're not because we don't have the funding to do it. That's where I'm nervous.
Janet, may I address that, please?
Yes.
So this ties into what I was saying before. I am very aware and actually made a list for this meeting we had for drafting of the broken down practical needs and the water commissioners and the 208 needs for the wastewater, comprehensive wastewater planning committee. And I checked with our town accountant, and presently, from the $500,000 the town meeting appropriated for the wastewater committee's good work, we still have $69,742.13 left. A. B, in the summary here of what the water commissioners have as a resource for support, it leaves out the fact that this year we're asking for an appropriate amount for the water commissioners to continue paying Whitewater Inc., who is their technical operation support for that side of the water commissioners' needs, as well as an extra amount of money, roughly $4,000, I believe, for billing, because the water commissioners are quite rightly and efficiently going to ask for somebody to do the billing. And they also have the water clerk who's mentioned in the summary. So the other thing I want to say about this issue, having given you what the finances are here right now about that, is, yeah, both groups need more help. But the first thing Hillary said at that meeting, okay, was she was asked what she thought, and that was a respectful, appropriate thing to do. And she said, because she knows all these numbers, by the way, she said, I think we should wait on this. So I'm just putting that out there as what Hillary said. I understand what Dan's saying, and I would like, actually, the only thing I would change in version 2 is the amount. I would have less asked for so that there would be something, remembering that there's still $69,742 left in what has already been appropriated for the Comprehensive Wastewater Plans Committee's needs.
Madam Chair?
So I just want to ask a quick question. Did the Water Commission and the Wastewater Committees have input, or is this the first time you've heard about this, or you're seeing it, or? Okay.
Alex was there.
Okay. Okay. Justina?
Just a quick point I want to make, because the fact that the water system has white water keeps coming up. So I just want to give some historical background that when Coles Neck was run by the DPW in 2007, the line item was $100,000 to run Coles Neck. Currently, the water system has $96,000 in manpower, $75,000 whitewater contract, and a $21,000 clerk. So essentially what happened historically was we invested $7.1 million in the water system, 70% grant money, the water tower, 50,000 linear feet of pipe, potentially 500 connections, and 11 municipal buildings. And the line item for whitewater and staff remained flat. So it's common sense that we need additional resources because we built a system. So when we say that it has a clerk in whitewater, it does, but it used to have those when it was just Coles Neck, and volunteers have been acting as staff for a long time. So I think that getting some consulting resources into the picture is a great first step to addressing this issue.
Madam Chair, point of information. So when we had the first small municipal system, which was called the Coles Neck system, and they had one well and sort of a little extra well next to them, this is before the first big expansion. The Board of Water Commissioners was the Select Board, and the person they had to help with administration back then was simply the administrative staff that serves the Select Board. By going to, with a charter, a separate Board of Water Commissioners, it became more official, and we started having water clerks who also take their minutes.
But you had whitewater, right?
No.
Well, the
No.
DPW line item for 2007 in the annual report.
This is in the 80s.
Right. I'm not talking about the 80s. I'm just saying that the resources stayed flat.
Yes, they did, and that's why they're asking for more money, and they deserve it. But, so I agree that we should have something that can be reached into if the DEP goes racing along. I don't think it should be that much, given what's still in the kitty. In other words, that figure I gave you, $69,742 in the wastewater committee's kitty. And so I would say $120,000 is too much, and maybe 2/3 of that would go over easier, and we would get the money, because it doesn't have to be spent if there's no need for it. In other words, I get what Dan has done, what Dan is suggesting.
So let Dan say something. He wants to say something.
So just a couple of responses, and this really is the Select Board's call. You know, we'll implement whatever you decide here. The two things that I would be a little bit concerned about is you and I interpreted what Hillary said differently. When Hillary said, I think we should wait, I'm in agreement with that. I think we should wait with hiring a water resource director until we've done further research. But I don't necessarily think we should wait a year to do that. We may come up and find out that within 6 months we need to fill that position or a position similar to it to meet what the DEP requirements are. The other thing that I would say is when we talk about what was the $69,000 that is left, and I meant to do this and I haven't done it yet, but I'd have to go back and read exactly what that article says, because it's one of the things that we should be, and as town administrator I am, very strict about, is that when you look at an article, you can't change what town meeting voted. So if the article says it's going to be used by the Comprehensive Wastewater Committee to do this, I can't use that money for something else. It has to be exactly what town meeting instructed how we were going to use that. So,
Madam Chair, this, you and I understood Hillary exactly the same way, because at the time she said it, at the beginning of that drafting meeting, and I'm looking at Justina because she was there, that was what we were looking at, was should there be this position. So I agree with you. I'd also listened to Hillary talk about it previously, and I mean listened. And she is actually the person who's informed me the most about the needs, the various needs of what will be mainly put on her department, or two departments, particularly the Board of Health, in the ongoing, as we meet the requirements of the 208 plan. And that's why, I would suggest that the amount be 80,000 or 60,000, but not 120,000. And I was thinking of the 500,000 in terms of the wastewater committee's set of needs, not the water commissioners, right? We can't use that 69,000 for the water commissioners. So I agree with both the things you said.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Mr. Hood? Dr. Hood?
I'll speak to the water issues first. And first, the correction on Whitewater. In 2011, we reduced Whitewater's contract by half.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we went from 8 hours a day of work with us down to 4. So that was at the request of the water commissioners at the time to try to reduce our budget. So we are at a bare minimum, in my opinion, on that. And I want to remind you, if you weren't at the Wellfleet Forum when I spoke recently, there is this issue. I was asked by Helen, and I was also asked by the housing, the group that's working on the housing on Lawrence Road, about whether or not we had the capacity in the water system to bring those additional housing units, the community housing or affordable housing, online with the system. And I went to our engineer at Environmental Partners, and I also spoke to Whitewater, Russ Tierney at Whitewater on this. There's adequate water, there good quality water. However, our limitation with water is that we have a 4-inch main that comes down from our redundant water supply at Coles Neck. That will not supply more than 40,000 gallons of water per day, safely. And with the expansion as proposed for the housing on Lawrence Road, we will be over 40,000 gallons per day. DEP has the right to advise us on this, as well as to say yay or nay to adding those housing units into the system if it exceeds what they consider a safe capacity for the system. So that's something that the water commissioners are going to face very soon. If this article comes up and there is an agreement to lease that land for development of housing, this is going to be an issue that the town will have to face. At some point, we're going to have to replace that water main.
So you're talking about a lot of money to replace the water main, but not necessarily, can you address this article and
gonna take
a
leadership.
director or
It's
whatever?
gonna take
Okay,
leadership
that's what I
on
want you to
this and to
say.
identify
Yeah.
funding.
Consultant or a hired person?
So may I address what he said?
And yes, and consulting support, and also to identify funding for this.
Okay, so you are in favor of hiring someone?
I'm in
Be it a
favor of making
consultant
sure
or-
there's adequate funds in there, whether it's consultant or
Okay.
hiring somebody,
Okay.
to make sure that if we're going through with some of these projects at this point, that we have the resources available to do it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify it for everybody.
Janet?
They're up there first, Mr. Felix.
Yeah, the other thing that I'd like to mention is that, Jim started to talk about some of the water system issues. The main one that's in here is also to look at the financial model. We've got a big problem, and everybody knows that we've had a big problem for a long time. We don't have the resources and haven't had the resources to do anything about it. So there's significant needs in the water system. With regard to wastewater, we're looking at the DEP having come back to us and said, your plan looks pretty good, but you've got to have a backup sewer plan for the entire town, which now takes the risk of not, moving forward on implementation efforts significantly higher. Instead of 60 million, it probably looks more like 150 million if we have to sewer the entire town. So first and foremost, what this whole article is about is figuring out the best strategy for the town to minimize the ultimate cost of its water system and its wastewater needs. That's the bottom line. And as far as the money value, whether it's 20 or 50 or 60 or 120, the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen are not going to authorize consulting contracts if they don't make sense. But if you don't have a budget there in the first place, how are you going to do anything? And we have substantial needs that, as the town administrator has alluded to, that we really don't have our arms around. And so to go blindly, and as far as the wastewater monies that have already been allocated by town meeting, those were for the comprehensive wastewater plan. I don't think that you can use those funds for these purposes. That's certainly something that the town administrator is going to look more closely at, but my sense of both what town meeting passed and what we've been doing up till now, those monies wouldn't be able to be used for these types of purposes.
So to keep it simple, are both of you for that article as written?
Revised?
Yeah, with one exception. The only thing that I would change is, I think to keep it simpler for the public, items number 1 and number 3 make sense. Item number 2, I think you could just strike that out.
Can you tell me what they are?
That
since
says,
you have my paper?
analyze the requirements of Section 208 of the Clean Water Act as put forth by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental
Makes sense.
Protection and the Cape Cod Commission. That's
Okay.
what the process is doing anyway, so
Yeah.
I think
kinda
it's just
redundant.
unnecessary.
And you're in agreement
Yes,
too, Jim?
I'm in agreement with that as well.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I want to address this. Kurt, you and I agree on something. I had a line through that because I thought this is already going on, and I have to say that some of what has to happen still, because your committee has to submit the final plan, is covered by that extra money that you still have from the 500,000, because I'd broken down all the practical needs, and that was one of them. So I agree that we should strike number 2, because it's ongoing and will continue to be ongoing, and it's part of what your job was. So that's very exciting.
Okay.
Can I make a motion?
Everybody's all set with that?
Yep. Can you just move on the article, and then I want to talk about the summary? Okay, because the
All right.
summary I have some issues with it. I'd
Okay.
like you to hear.
May I have a motion?
I move that Article 35, is that what I'm referring to, Dan?
Yes.
Be moved into the,
Be recommended?
be moved and recommended as amended by eliminating paragraph 2 into the annual town warrant.
Second, or
Uh-huh.
item 2. Second.
All in favor? Great.
And now I move that
Okay.
the summary, again, it's really important so that I or somebody else
Yeah, so
doesn't
what
have
are
to
you- what
get
are
up
your
at town
amendments?
meeting. So, first paragraph was fine for me. In the second paragraph, it says, the town does not currently have any capacity to implement a state and federally required wastewater plan. We have some capacity. Does not have enough capacity, I agree with. But to say we have
Okay,
none,
fine.
okay?
Just give the words.
Yeah, and then the second thing is, if you're going to put in the thing about the water clerk and not simply say, the Board of Water Commissioners needs more help for their practical needs or something like that, that I could put in the summary. But if you only mention the water clerk and you don't mention all the staff support,
So I don't know, as
the
Mr.,
consultant
let's let
support.
Mr. Power.
Let me finish
well,
my sentence.
I think he's going
Can I
to tell you
finish my
something.
sentence, please?
Okay.
I didn't put it right. So water commissioners are going to get close to, and I'm going to vote for it, $100,000 in support from consultants and the bill-paying company, which they completely need and deserve, okay? That is major support, and if you put a summary and you don't mention that, I think that it's not the whole picture. So that's all I wanted to say about it. It doesn't mean that I don't want on the next ATM, warrant that we get to put a bigger pipe there. You don't need a consultant for that. The consultants already advised us to do that years ago. So that's an ask which I would support. Yes? What did I do wrong,
Mr.
Joe?
Powers? Yeah.
Despite that leading question, that's not what I was going to address. I think you're great. I just want to let you know that to be accurate in the summary, the person in that role, it's not a part-time water clerk. The position is committee secretary and water system clerk. It is a full-time equivalent position. It's in the union, and I think we just need to be accurate. So it is fair to say that there is limited resources, but the position itself is a full-time position with many responsibilities.
So in general, the summaries are usually written by staff. So I've written this up. I will work with Joe to make sure I reflect it correctly, and I will work with Helen to make sure that I get what her input is on it as well.
Okay. Okay.
Just to
Is that
have
going to
it
be
be.
tonight or tomorrow morning before it goes to the
Yes,
printer?
we'll talk about it tomorrow morning,
Okay.
I
Early.
didn't
when
want-
you get up.
Hey.
Yeah, when you get up.
Okay. So I think we've had a motion, if I recall.
It was approved.
No, the summary has not been.
Oh, that's right, we didn't do the summary.
So I move that we approve the summary for Article 35 as amended.
Second, all in favor? Thank you.
Well, summary as amended.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
you
good.
said.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We did it.
Thank you guys for staying.
What, they're all
What?
comatose.
Oh, look, Mike's even coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now all I need is somebody to move to close the 2019 town meeting warrant.
No, because there's one more thing.
Ooh,
And Joe.
is that close?
Yeah, I know. So Joe will tell us how to do this, okay? And my memory is we actually should have done that with this article, but never mind. So I looked carefully into this petitioned article that simply asks the DCR and the DOT to get together and figure things out and come before us and do what the petitioned article asks. And what I said at the time, which is why I didn't recommend it, because I just wanted it to go away, but we couldn't because it was petitioned, I said, we're already doing this. We're telling them we want them to come like this. And then I realized that having town meeting vote to have that kind of meeting lends a lot of strength in the eyes of the state to have them actually show up like we've been wanting them to show up for, over a year now. So all it does is simply say, please come. We're the town meeting. We would like you to come, and we're voting on it. It's not just 5 people at a
Who
table.
are we asking to come?
Yeah, so
The
this is,
DOT and
so back up, Helen. So Helen's asking for the petition article requesting the bike trail. And I'm looking, I don't think we have that article in front of us. Do you
Yes,
have the
we do.
article right there?
No, I'm actually moving to reconsider it, because one of the people, to reconsider our recommendation, because one of the people at the table who voted against it has to be willing to make that motion. Am I correct?
So I just want to say, I want to see the article
is
before we do it,
It is
because,
Article 44, I'll just quickly read it, to see if the town will vote to request that the Board of Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, and the Planning Board consider alternate routes for the bike trail extension, and to ask the appropriate agencies of the Commonwealth to halt any planning or construction beyond Old County Road until those deliberations have occurred. And the current vote is that the Board of Selectmen does not recommend by a vote of 5-0.
so read the last sentence, please. The last line even?
And to ask the appropriate agencies of the Commonwealth to halt any planning or construction beyond Old County Road until those deliberations have occurred.
So, like, I just don't agree with the whole wording. I mean, what is beyond Old County Road? Yeah, I mean, it's,
Madam Chair,
I
may
still,
I?
I still want to not recommend.
Yeah, Helen, I'm not going to change my vote on this. I looked at that petitioned article and read it front and back, and it'll be great to have them heard at town meeting. It's a petitioned article, they have that right, but I'm not comfortable recommending it or changing my vote.
However, I would like to, and this is just a formality.
Okay, well, let's make a motion and see if anybody else wants
If the four
to.
of you, no, if the four of you still don't want to recommend it, I get that. I would like to change my vote.
You can.
Yes, but we have to vote to.
Let's do that.
Does
I
Mr.
move to
Powers have anything to say first? Do you have anything to say?
So if so because it was a 5-0 majority, or excuse me, unanimous consent, reconsideration could come from any of you here because you're on the prevailing side. If a member is looking to reconsider for the purpose of changing their vote, you can do it, but you have to first vote to reconsider
Yeah,
and then retake a vote.
okay.
I move to reconsider our recommendation on Article, what's the number, please?
44.
On Article 44.
Is there a second? Motion doesn't pass.
That's too bad. All I wanted to do was change my one
Yeah.
vote.
We're going to work on it, you know. I mean, the DOT is going to be requested to come, I don't know, May, June, or something like that, to go over this again
And
also.
this may pass at town meeting, so.
Madam Chair, if
Yeah,
I may,
yeah.
before you proceed to the last item that the administrator has, I'd like to offer my apology, meaning I didn't see it, but the specific motion should be that that you vote to close the 2019 annual town meeting, annual town election warrants, plural. It's the procedure.
So moved.
Thank you.
Anybody want to
Second.
repeat that?
Second.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I think one of us has to make the motion legally, since
Okay.
it's a legal thing.
So,
So I move to close the 2019 annual town meeting warrant and election. And what? An annual town election. On the
Warrant.
Warrant.
second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, thank you. So we will have the, I don't know if there's any select board reports, and we'll have the town administrator's report, but I'd like to mention that because I knew we were going to have a long meeting, and we have lots of minutes that we are going to postpone approving the minutes because our secondary secretary didn't have time to amend them.
Well,
correct them, so-
it was more to this point. I can offer, let's say.
We don't have to, I'm just saying
Here's-
we are
Here's the
postponing
reason.
them.
There are a lot of amendments, and it would take us another 15 or 20 minutes. However,
Right.
we could do one set of them. How about it?
No, we're going to do all of them, okay, just like I said.
Next time.
So we do still have the town administrator's report. Are there any select boards reports?
No.
All right. And
I
so,
just have one comment.
okay,
Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Hort, I've heard already great things about the new Assistant DPW Director.
Great, great, thank you.
okay, so anything else on the town administrator's report? Great, okay, may I have motion to adjourn,
No.
future discussion, there we
Future
go.
discussion.
Future
Okay,
discussion.
so, at our next meeting, April 9th, if you remember our exchanges with the chair.
Thank you.
Good night, Sherry.
Yeah, I know,
Good
go
night,
for it.
Sherry. I have
Thank
to
you.
draft,
I actually do too, so.
I have to
Count down.
draft in the morning.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
so
do.
here's a future concern, just to keep from clogging the warrant at town meeting any more than we have to. The Energy Committee has put this article on the warrant.
Right.
And if we meet on it on April 9th and approve their charge, which we asked them for, right, they can just say indefinitely postpone. at town meeting. If we don't do that, I bet they don't. So
We already discussed it, Helen.
I know, but we didn't vote on it. We didn't approve their charge, and we didn't approve, the,
We left it as a petitioned article that it was already inserted in the warrant.
yes, but the thing is that we don't, they want us to do it, and as he said, you see, if we do it at our meeting, he can just move to indefinitely postpone, and we can go right on, okay? So I suggest that we do that instead of taking time at town meeting, because town
So
meeting.
to remove it from the article,
Yes,
take it off the warrant.
Yeah, the other.
It's a
I think it-
petitioned
yeah.
article.
Let me
It can't
finish.
come off the
Let
warrant.
me finish, please. It can't go off the warrant, but at town meeting, they can vote. They can move to indefinitely postpone. And the trouble with
Okay.
it is, we are the only appointing authorities for that committee. So it makes no sense to have it at a town meeting at all. They're not, it's not a
Okay,
town.
it's fine. I think we've already discussed this, and we've already agreed that they don't have to have it on the.
No, and we
They
can-
have to, yeah, so
And
that's
we can meet
fine.
on it on April 9th and do it, because otherwise they're going to,
What are we going to do?
It is on your agenda. You can
Thank
approve the
you.
new charge for the Energy Committee. It is on the agenda for your April 9th meeting.
Yes, but not on
And
the
your
warrant.
recommendation in the warrant is that you recommend indefinite postponement.
Thank
Yes.
you.
So the second thing is, I completely understand wanting to save paper. I recycle every scrap. However, I could do without the page for future concerns. I think that the motion
Yeah.
should be put in bold at the top of the information sheets we get for the homework, right? So it shouldn't have to be a separate sheet. However, I have to tell you, going through this warrant, this agenda
Packet.
was
Yeah.
hell for me.
Yeah, you don't have to
Because-
say anything more. I know why, because it was written on the back, and it was very difficult, and the pages weren't numbered, and I still have a.
Fast, I tried. so-
Yeah.
I know, no, we're going to work on it. And I would just say with the correspondence and the committee report, we could get them by email, right? I mean, we don't have to have a printed copy every
I
meeting
like a printed copy, but
of the correspondence. What if it's not emailed?
I like a hard copy to have in
Okay.
front of me, so.
I agree with that because I keep them, believe it or not. So,
Okay.
so thank you for trying. I had an open mind, and then I was in hell.
Well, we're gonna need a lot of open minds to fix this, and I'm willing to work on it.
I know.
It's just a lot of preferences. So
I
if we
was,
can kind of
yeah.
Get all together on the same.
Yeah.
page.
Absolutely. So partly, the hardest thing is the minutes,
Oh, yeah.
because then to store them and have them, and be able to locate the minutes for that agenda, for that meeting, when they're all sort of
Together.
together
Yeah.
is
So
really-
we'll work on that. So we'll
Can I
work
do-
on saving paper.
And may I
in
do
other
a
ways.
shout out for Courtney?
I know.
Courtney did
It's to me.
3 extra meetings,
Yeah.
and two of them were very long. One was the MSI meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and
then
I just
we'll
want to
shout out
say,
that
she
she
was
probably wants to
amazing.
get home.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Helen.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but it's over, right? Yeah, let's go. Okay.
Any other future concerns?
No, but Madam Chair, through you to Courtney, I ask that when we have appointments to committees or boards, that in addition to their application to us, that we have, a description of the charge or the task that they're to be charged with.
Well, and I want to add to that I often forget to ask, have you been going to any meetings? And there should be a recommendation from committees too, or somebody, it often, like Ned came to support Rebecca. We need to know that the committees, that they want to be on the committees, and the committees need or want their expertise too. So, but that's not necessarily up to you.
And that's not so important to me, is just getting people to show up for these boards. you know.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Madam Chair?
We're doing well with that. Yes, Justina.
Just because we're on this type of administrative stuff, I wonder if it would make sense with the minutes, if anybody has changes to the minutes, that they submit them to Courtney in writing prior to the meeting, so that we're not sort of verbally doing it in real time, but we all have
Yes.
a revised minutes, and then we can approve those.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can do that with typos and stuff. That's all the stuff in lime green. But actual amendments, we have to, it's good to see them before, but you have to do them at the meeting. That's open meeting law stuff. Yeah.
But couldn't we have a written version of the changes,
Yes,
redlined or something like that?
Yes, and we used to before I had cataracts, but I have to tell you the other thing. I would submit, this is before you got elected, I would submit my suggested amendments, and any of us could do that, and they were in red. Doing that takes literally twice as long. So then I started doing it this way, which is the way I used to do it, okay? It's gone through some evolutions. It's better, and I am not happy about reading it out loud. But we have to, when we make amendments, we have to do it in open session
We could
like
read
this.
them, but we could, I think we can give Courtney our additions or corrections or even typos.
And
But
then
we also have to get the minutes before the packet, right?
Yes. The other.
We'd have to get them,
Yeah,
which we do anyhow.
The other thing is,
Right, don't we?
you understand, we can't tell Courtney to put an amendment in before we voted on it.
Yeah, no, I understand
Yeah,
that, but if we
yeah.
could have a working document for the meeting that she distributes, where she incorporates the changes, and then it's
Red.
appropriately titled, revised minutes for approval, and we can all look at the red line changes or whatever.
That's what we used to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
are you
we like
telling?
that idea?
Are you saying that's
We like that
difficult
idea.
for you because of cataracts, or?
I used to do it this way, and
We
then I
can't
went
see
to
what that way is, by the way.
Yeah, it's, what's amended, I read the amendments out loud, what's
So
in
your
red.
personal, you've written amendments.
It's what I offer.
Okay.
I used to put them in the text, and even if my eyes were perfect still, and they're going to be perfect again, it still takes way longer. And I do it as efficiently as I can, but it's,
Maybe I don't.
So it's too hard in other.
I'm
so
sorry
you
if
don't
I'm
wanna
not
do- yeah.
understanding something, but I wasn't suggesting that you input them on the computer. I was suggesting that if you give them, like you just showed us, to Courtney, and she does that and distributes it to us to approve.
I think that you can give me your amendments, and like if the board decides to
too.
make you the end-all be-all amender, which you do it
But
so
she
well
is,
anyway.
yeah.
So, but then if they were to if that was
so I could,
give me the corrections, and then
For
at the meeting, we would just say, we move to approve the
No.
minutes as amended.
no, you'd have to highlight it in red what my amendments are in
And
the
we could do
text.
that. If
We-
you
yeah,
gave
we-
us
if you
those
gave
right
that to
there,
me, yeah,
we
we
could
could
put them in.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I
What we're
meant.
saying, Helen,
That's-
yeah.
So we don't
I
have to sit
wasn't
here
trying
and
to give
read
you
them
more
for-
work,
Yeah.
less work. If you can hand them to
Yeah, I
Courtney, and she'll
didn't-
take care of it.
I just don't assume what you're ready to do.
No, I'd be glad to do that, rather than, because then we
I
wouldn't
would
have to sit-
really love
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
You
because
just said very nice things about her. She got a shout out, so she's happy to help you right
Yeah.
now.
it's going to take more than that. Okay, well, I'll give you what I've already got tonight, okay? And I will give you
Okay.
the rest later.
I move to
Good.
adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
By
Thank
the
you,
way-
everybody. Thank you for staying.